There we go. How's that?
Oh, that's even better.
Do you guys like that one or the other one?
That one's fun. I like that one.
Okay, we'll do this one. It gives you a sense of our potentiality. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Hope you're all. Are you all doing well in this? What do you call it?
Zombie apocalypse.
Zombie apocalypse.
Quarantine. I'm personally doing fine because I started hiatus on March 3rd from the TV show, so like I already had this downtime planned. So I was like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna be reading, I'll be working out, I'll be walking my dogs, that's all gonna be fine. So I feel okay, but I realize that I am one person out of like 100 around me who are not okay with this downtime. And I was like, it's great, what are you talking about? So
because you had it planned, and that's the interesting thing about this this field is because you do go from project to project.
Yeah.
If you manage your resources really well, it's not going to affect you. But there's a lot of people like if you're a waiter, like no safety, you know, like it dropped out. And in being a producer is great because you can use this downtime to develop projects on paper that you can have ready. Because you're used to that in a production timetable. You know that you're going to be down for the next month or two, so you've already planned out how to set up your next year's worth of work.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm doing. Like, because we're allotted 10 weeks in between the seasons, I made sure that I saved enough, and I also knew I was going to get unemployment, so I was like, I'm going to divide enough of unemployment in the tiny savings I have for each week.
Right.
And then I'm going to try to pick up freelance gigs. That's not an option anymore. And then plan out all like different stuff, like different short films I want to make, or if I want to like write a short story, like I've been able to plan stuff. So it's really nice. But I do feel bad for everyone who this is not their reality. They don't have the privilege of just like being able to catch up to the job when it comes back, you know, like it sucks for a lot of people.
Yeah. And we've always been proponents of digital workspaces, digital work, because exactly of moments like this, we can transition from one thing to another, work with people all over the world, really, with the skills that we have. Whereas if you're physically tied to a place and that place is, you know, closed down, for example, to be, you know, like happening now, then you don't really have any other options. It's always good to have a backup, you know, field or discipline that you do for when the video work's not there. But this is where the opposite is true. It's good to have the digital background for when the physical is not there.
Yeah, it's truly unfortunate, like for all of the grocery store workers, everyone who works in a restaurant, the nurses, like thank you to all of them, but they don't have an option of doing anything digital. They have to be there in person.
Yeah, and no, that's true. And that's why I'm glad you guys are taking this course. One of the things that we want to talk about is what's called citizen journalism. And times like this are really critical to be able to use those skills. That's where you go into your world like a journalist. So you see people posting online, I'm here at Costco and this is what it looks like, this is what's happening here, or you know, the police just shot a guy, here's what we're seeing on the street. Now you can go live on the internet and basically give people important information on the spot. So if you know how to do that, what to say, what you're looking for, but also critically, like what to do technologically, because I know if you see videos, sometimes they're all shaky or there's a lot of noise. So if you go into a situation, like say you just go out on your street and say, I want to give you guys a chronicle of what's happening in our reality today. Here's my street. Having good light on yourself, having good audio, having good control of the camera makes all the difference. And we tell our kids when we teach video classes, like, what if you see a UFO or Bigfoot and you forget to take out your camera, then you missed the moment forever. But if you remember to take it out, then you're the person that filmed Bigfoot. And it's the same with citizen journalism. Like Rodney King, if somebody hadn't pulled out a video camera, we never would have seen it, you know, when he got beaten in LA. And it's the same with important things like this. One thing that we're concerned about as they're, you know, getting everybody off the street and closing the border is that, because we work in social justice work, is that ICE might use this as an opportunity to start doing door-to-door raids. So if you see something like that and you film it, it gets the word out to a lot more people. And I know that because like we're talking about moving digitally, a lot of people are doing digital, you know, what do you call it? Advocacy and activism, that's something not to forget, that we can be important eyes and ears on the street for our communities in this time where like you literally can't just say, I'm going to go down the street and see what's going on because we're supposed to be at home. So what else? So remind us what show you were on? You're on?
I was on Magnum PI, the reboot on PBS. So, you know, just cookie cutter, good for families, good guy always wins type of show. And the lead is Jay Hernandez, which is, I think, one of the few Latinos who is leading in a lot of shows. So, you know, slowly getting there. And he's from Montebello. He's from East LA. So,
oh, nice. I didn't know that. I didn't know he was on it, but I didn't know he was in Montebello.
Yeah, he's from Montebello. So it's nice that he's like of Los Angeles, because there's so many actors and creatives in Los Angeles who are not getting the jobs. And he's been like in the business for like 25 years. So it's good for him.
Awesome. And that's one thing that we really want to stress right now, because I know that Irene and Mario last week, they give a really inspirational presentation, and they are at a point right now where they're saying, we are having fun, we're getting success, we want to do as much good as we can, as fast as we can. Money is not the object. That's very important as you get experience, but at a certain point, you know, you have to take care of yourself. You have to empower, you know, your career, your vision,
Take care of your family,
your mission. As you get older, families, you get more responsibility. So it's better to start off with that in mind. And that's one of the skills we want to impart to you guys, is that, you know, always have that in mind. Even if you work for free, you should never really think of it as working for free. There should be some kind of exchange that benefits you. Early on in your career, that's usually experience. But as this is a producer's class, that's also titles. You know, I know if you watch The Simpsons, for example, when they do the opening credits, like everyone's a producer, right? You say produced by. They're all the writers, but somehow the Simpsons model when it came out was really great because it made writers into producers. And so they have more control but ownership of the content, but they know that's going to make them stronger in the industry as they go out and they do their own careers. So if you're doing the work of a producer and you're not getting paid, it's a good time to have that conversation to get the title, you know. And I was just looking back, as we're looking back at clips, I remember that the first piece that I really produced was a documentary on, really short one, a documentary on Tijuana rock and roll, back to talking about music scenes. And I think of myself as a writer. So even though I had produced that in 1999, it wasn't until later that I started calling myself a producer, when I should have, you know, done it as soon as I produced my first piece, because then you can come to the table in conversations at a much stronger level. You know, and writers at that time were kind of viewed as extraneous in the sense that the producer has all the power and the writers kind of do what they're told. And now writers have a lot more power because the need for content is so strong. And you can take a project like, I mean, even like say Game of Thrones, it could be a huge worldwide hit. If the writing was bad, nothing else could save it. Or you take something like we were talking about Robert Rodriguez, where you do a piece like El Mariachi, and then you have the opportunity to make 20 other films. You need to be able to write those films or get them written to that level of quality. And a producer can't do that on their own. You can bring a package to the table, but if it's, you know, if the writing's not good, it's going to be hard to, you know, I guess sell it is the word. But for you guys, we are interested in just getting you started on that path, getting early successes, getting in the mindset. So what we're going to do today is, so I'm going to have everybody check in before we start just on whether you guys played with Filmic Pro and what your thoughts are. So we'll start with you, Alex, since you're on. Did you get a chance to play with Filmic Pro?
I played with it a little bit. It's cool. Like, I haven't really shot anything on it. It is more friendly than a DSLR. I always have a really hard time with DSLRs. Like, because all it's, at least for me, it's different on every DSLR, the different buttons and the functions. So I like that it's really cut and dry. And it tells you, like, here's how you can adjust it. So yeah, I like it. I haven't filmed anything though. I just like looked at the buttons and stuff.
Okay, but as someone person that's okay, you're okay. So Salvador.
Yes.
Filmic Pro. Did you play with it?
Been playing with it. I've been playing mostly with the what do you call it? The size of the image. I forgot the word. The size of the frame. What's it called? The
aspect ratio.
I'm playing that around with that, and but then your phone it kind of limits you because it's so small. But I've been playing a lot with try to light things properly and just kind of mostly with the framing, you know, and try to get things like frame within the aspect ratios and stuff like that. I was kind of set a tone with the size of the image, so kind of.
And that's actually one of the really cool things about that program is it gives you a level of creativity that you wouldn't think you could get from your phone. And even if you just like you're messing around with friends and you say, oh, we want to do like a spaghetti Western type scene or shot, to know that you can do that with your phone.
See, I didn't have a lot of time to shoot, like, because, you know, I've been working and then just up and down with all this craziness. So mostly I was just doing a lot of recording on the road. I was using my phone holder in the car and just kind of get that wide view on my windshield, try to put it as close and stuff like that. And yesterday, funny thing, I was doing One in the Rain, and I was doing this effect shifting between the drops of the rain and the road. But then until I realized I wasn't recording. And then another one, I had removed the SD card from my phone, so it recorded directly into the phone and not on the SD card. Now I can't take it out because I have a Samsung and my laptop is a Mac, so they can't read each other. So.
Oh, they don't talk?
No, not at all. I have to record it directly into the SD card and then SD card transfer it to that computer.
Try image capture as an app, because that it should connect with your phone as a phone. But there's a program called Image Capture that makes it really easy just to save things to your hard drive.
Okay, because once I did the last 2 updates, it hasn't let me do it. I used to be able to move the images, but right now it doesn't let me do anything.
Oh, right. That is a problem when one operating system doesn't talk to the other one. Like you have them both equal, then you upload one and then they don't connect. We've had that happen from Mac to Apple product. It just like, you can't download your photos from the same platform. But there are some good, I sent a couple of links for some good editors in Android. So check those out. And then you won't have to export it. You can edit it on your phone.
All right.
All right, Arlette, I think you're muted right now. Let me see if I can unmute you. Okay, you're unmuted. Arlette.
Hi. So you guys this is a recurring thing, right? This is my first time.
Oh, okay, welcome. How you doing?
Good, and you?
How did you hear about the class?
I'm subscribed on your email list.
Yay.
Oh, cool. Welcome. All right, so we'll get back to you later. We're talking about Filmic Pro, which is an app that we downloaded that can your phone, whether it's Android or iPhone, can do multiple frame rates. You can have really cool control over focus and exposure, slow motion, and aspect ratio, like we were just talking about. So write that down and download it. It's free. No, it's actually that's $14.99, but it gives you the capacity of like $1,000 camera.
What was that called again?
Filmic Pro.
And we'll have it in the description of the video.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we'll come back to you later. Angelica, am I unmuting you if I can? There we go. Oops. Okay. How about yourself, Angelica?
Yes, I did try it. I'm actually really impressed. Like the quality is really good. So I played around with it a few times. I literally just took shots of like nature because that's all I have. Like I just went outside and I was playing with my nephew, so I took shots of him. It looks really clean. And I'm still playing around with more of the features, but I think I'm just right now trying to get a hold of the, yeah, just the basics. But I'm really impressed so far. I really like it.
Awesome. And yeah, we want to emphasize, start with the basics. Like I said, if you just do 1080p, 30 frames a second, and it makes it easier, so it makes it fun. And then you know, you don't have to worry about frame rates or if your computer's strong enough or whatever. Just go out and have fun with it. And yeah, you can get the cool thing about these phones too is that you can have what do you call it? Really, it's called macro. We get really close up to something. Like you could even zoom in on like just on a butterfly or a leaf or a,
yeah, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to get that depth of field, like trying to figure that out. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed by the quality.
Awesome. Yeah, so have fun. So you're having fun though with it.
Okay, I'm gonna go grab some coffee while following you along.
All righty. Okay, Maddie, how about yourself?
Hey guys, I have just one quick message. Is you guys, anybody knows that if they don't have a place where to take the class, here in my office, there's a lot of meeting rooms empty and we can practice social distance. So, so anyone, and there's like monitors there and you guys can plug your computers. So it's all the way down in Foothill Ranch, but it's a good place if you guys need somewhere to go.
Awesome. So we won't give the information out on this on the internet, but we'll connect with you later on that. Okay, Maddie. Are you there?
Oh yeah.
Oh, Maddie, are you there? Hello, Maddie?
Oh yeah, sorry, my internet was like unstable.
Okay. Oh wait, somebody's feedback.
Yeah, I've also been playing on it too. I started working on like my 1 minute, 3 minute film thing yesterday, or not yesterday, but like during the week last week, and I the thing that I found like kind of confusing was like the white balancing stuff. Like the controls are kind of like something to get used to. So like that, I had a little bit of trouble with that. Like I think I would set it off a little bit too much, or like I would make it too warm or too cold. So just like things like that. But yeah, I think I'm definitely gonna have to go back and like watch a video where it like explain how to use everything, just because like when it's like actually in front of you, it's a lot all at once. But for sure, like it is cool. Like I really thought that like the focusing and the like the zoom tool that you can use like when you're about to film something, like I thought that was like really cool too. Like I don't have any other apps that like do that, so that was
yeah. It adds so much functionality, and we like to stress using the automatic functions because that is what do you call it, easiest. You know, you get good results right away, but you need to learn how everything changes so you can filter it and put your own creativity to it. To set white balance, the easiest thing to do, because it's different under different conditions. Like we said, if you walk outside and it's sunny or it's cloudy, or you go inside, totally different white balances. What they do, and it's easy for you to do, is just get a piece of paper. Now, can you all see me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what you do is you get a piece of paper and you hold it up in front of the camera so it fills the whole screen, and it's lit, like your scene is lit. And then you can set so the camera will white balance to that, and you can set it and lock it. And then you know that you're white balanced for that, you know, for that lighting condition. It's really better to have a clipboard with you so you can just have whatever you have on your clipboard, just spin it around to the backside, and in a pinch, just white balance that way. And then as you get more experience, there's gray cards and other white balancing cards. But auto generally gives you a good thing. But yeah, those controls that you have are really great, because in the past, like when you were shooting to tape, you would have to digitize it or take it to a little box to do the white balance. Now you just do it like right there before you shoot. After you shoot, you can tweak it, you know, in a program. So it's really strong. Okay, who else is here that we have? Elizabeth, you just joined us. Let me
Yes.
unmute you. Are you unmuted?
Yes.
Okay, so the question is that we were just giving everybody's feedback on Filmic Pro, if they had a chance to play with it.
I got a chance to film a little bit, and I realized not all of it was saved. So I had to figure that out. That I have to like go in and actually tell it to save it to my camera roll.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, you can save it to your camera roll. You can save it to its own folder in your phone. But it's good to save it to camera roll, because then that helps you play, as we're going to talk about iMovie. It helps you play with that more directly as opposed to copying over your camera roll. But your workflow is very individualized, what you prefer, and all this stuff is customizable to your own taste and style and needs. I like to, like I said, just get automatic settings, lock it in, and then just run and gun and shoot and be very, very mobile. But some people like to be just really meticulous with their look and their, you know, what they're going for. But like I said, for the lessons of this class, focus, light, sound, you're doing well. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm assuming we're shooting on landscape, right? Not portrait. Or does it depend on like where you're uploading the video?
It depends on where you're uploading the video. Pocha is a big fan of portrait, and I'm like a real.
Because it's mobile, right? If it's mobile portrait, or
it depends, because
If it's for a story, can you unmute me?
Yeah, because if say for example you're doing it for Facebook or Instagram,
Stories,
then
those are only vertical.
yeah, then those are vertical.
yeah, vertical. Yeah.
But I like looking at
If it's cinematic, that's landscape, right?
Landscape.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's portrait. Yeah, it depends on the format. The cool thing about these apps is that they can also export or film at a square, like 1:1 ratio. So if you want just a middle compromise, you can do that. But it really depends on the format and what you're doing. So that's the answer to the question.
But it's also to keep in mind
What you want to use it for
in the end in terms of you can shoot and frame so that you can use it both for landscape and portrait. So you can shoot far back enough that you can use that same footage for both. So if you keep it in your eye to frame that way.
Yeah, but those are all production decisions. Oh, and Sandra, since you're close, if you could mute while you're not talking, that'd be great.
How do I do it?
Okay, I'll mute you. Okay.
Hey guys, also the app has you can select what, or you can lock the orientation of your phone. If you want to lock it portrait or landscape, you can lock it as well. Like mine is locked on landscape, so because for whatever reason you drop your phone or something and it doesn't change it, and it doesn't change the format. So it's kind of cool, just kind of lock it in the way that you're always using it to. Like if you say you're walking or something and someone talks to you and you flip it or something, it won't change that. So you can lock it. I forgot where it was, but you can lock it.
Yes, and that's good because sometimes you want a shot where, say, if you do this, right, then your image is doing a full rotation. So you don't need a special rig. You just need to turn your phone around. And if it's not locked, it'll change the orientation in the middle of your shot, and you don't want that. But it's all tools that depending on what you want. But you're right, that's important because it is such a mobile filming medium. You know that you don't want to angle like this and then have it automatically switch in the middle of your shot. I've had that happen to me, and where suddenly I'm filming upside down and I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, awesome. Okay, so if you notice, and for you, Arlette, also, we did tape last week's class, which was really, really inspirational, and it's on YouTube now. So if you go to Media Art Santa Ana's YouTube page, you'll find it, or if you go to our Facebook page, or if you're on the email list, the link is in the email that I sent. Please check it out because—
Is that Arlette from Costa Mesa?
Is this Arlette from Costa Mesa? Pocha's asking.
No, I'm Arlette from San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, that's right.
Hi.
I look familiar.
Awesome. Well, welcome, San Antonio. You guys are not in
You're
lockdown.
a student, right?
No, I'm in Irvine right now. I go to school at UCI.
Right,
That's it.
right.
Yeah, because I
Well,
knew there was an Orange County connection.
Yeah.
say
that's
hi to
what-
or let everybody.
In San Antonio, they still aren't on lockdown. They're free.
I know they need to stop hanging out with people already. I keep on seeing on my Instagram people are still hanging out. I'm low key
Yeah.
mad at them.
Well, welcome here. Welcome to OC. We're not going to get into the Whataburger In-N-Out debate today,
Okay.
but it's a raging one.
Nobody can go anyway.
Yeah, nobody can go anyways. So Whataburger's winning right now. Anyways, okay, so do check that out online because it was such an inspirational message, and just the takeaway of do it for yourself. Get it out there. It's not about the money, and just people are going to let you down, but you got to meet people who are going to be there for you too as you go in this career. Persistence. So what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to give a presentation, and then Pocha's going to give a presentation, and in this class, we're going to do, it's kind of divided into producer skills, technical skills, and then kind of project skills, like how to get a project done.
Q&A.
And Q&A. So when people ask me, like, what does a producer do? My answer glibly is a producer produces. And then after everybody stops laughing, like, what does that mean? So basically, what separates a producer from a writer or a musician or whatever is that they are the ones that make sure that things get done, to provide the resources necessary, the funding most often. Usually, in the past it was if you brought in the money, you were the producer. But now there's ways to bring in other stuff. If you bring in like
creative vision.
Salvador was talking about space. So if we're doing a production and he donates the space for the whole production, that's the equivalent of thousands and thousands of dollars of money. So he could say, I'll give you this space if I'm a producer. And then you have the discussions about what control over the project you actually have. A lot of people like being producers just in name because they believe in the project and they want to be associated with it. But then you have people that want more direct control. If it's your project, you need to safeguard what is important to you, because somebody else can come in and start making demands on your casting, on your script, on your ending, on other production values that you don't really want to make. So it's very important to have those conversations early and be really clear. And you want to get everything in writing. You're going to learn contracts later. And Isaac Artenstein will be here on the 11th, I believe, and he's going to do a talk on the business of being a producer. So you don't want to miss that. But ultimately, if it's in writing, it's harder to dispute, and you want to safeguard your project. As you're starting out, whatever you produce, whether it's a 1-minute video or a larger documentary or a fiction piece, it's important that you set up your parameters that are comfortable and healthy for your success. And that there's some things worth fighting for and some things that you can compromise on, but that ultimate vision of what you want to do, you want to really not have to compromise on or bring people in that are going to ask you to compromise. You want people that understand what you're doing and support your vision. If you do something with less money, then there's not as much risk to lose money. So you can take more creative risks. But once money gets involved, people get really sensitive and they want to protect it. So they make more demands, especially if they get scared. Like you see in a lot of Hollywood productions that, the director gets fired or the actor gets fired, or, they change writers like 7 times because there's a lot of money at stake and they have to make sure that it's a product that sells money. But if it's your work and you're going to build your voice, you want to make sure that your vision is what comes out first. And, if you don't spend much money on it, you don't have to worry about losing. If you make a video and it's $50 and 50 people see it, that's good. If you make a movie that's $6 million and 50 people see it, suddenly you have a problem, So, but a producer produces. At this stage in your careers, and this is where Scar and Irene were talking about, get as much experience as you can. Go on to sets. If your friends are making movies, hang out, offer to help, be a production assistant. One of the things I always am a fan of is not taking classes so much as getting paid to learn. So if I want to be a cameraman, I could take a class on being a cameraman, or I could volunteer on a set or be a camera assistant, and I'll learn on the job. So there is a path to making money while you're learning. And then invariably there's going to be a moment where they need your help. Hey, I've got to run to the bathroom. Can you set this shot? Can you focus? Can you do the lighting? Can you, work on this grant or work on this contract? So you're going to be getting experience just by being there. And you want to make sure you navigate where you want to end up all the time. Yes, Alex.
I feel kind of funny, like raising my hand, but
That's okay, yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how to navigate this. I can speak to that on both parts because I did go to school for film, and then I've also, when I moved to LA, I had to find a job, and there's a lot of different benefits from school and from working. I would say school was really great to like help you develop your opinions, but I've had the most benefit from actually working because it's school is so completely different from having to collaborate with people. Money being involved, like you said, it makes people very sensitive. And in the writer's room, there's always like, is this the hill you want to die on? Meaning, like, we'll fight, like, so-and-so did this in the story, but this person didn't like it. But at the end of the day, is this the hill you're willing to die on? So you always have to pick and choose your battles. And from what I learned at school was like, what's your taste? What kind of movies do you like? What kind of stories do you want to make? And what I've learned at working is working with people. And knowing like you can still respect someone if you don't like their taste, or you can still be really good at your job even if you don't like everyone you're working with. And you still have to learn because at the end of the day, there's money involved. So I've had the best experience by actually working. I've also had the worst experiences at working. So, but either way, you learn, like I've learned way more about the reality of making stuff than I did at school. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents on that.
Yes, no, you're correct. And Robert Rodriguez, this was back, when he wrote Rebel Without a Crew, he basically says, film school is where you pay a lot of money to learn how to coil cables. You need to get out there. So especially now where college is so much more expensive than it was 20, 30 years ago, these are really choices you have to make. I'm an advocate of going to school because just like anything, you're not in there for one thing. You're picking up all these life skills. You're picking up all these other things. You're on the set. So there's grants that you can apply for. There's faculty that can help you. You're on the lot. You can go into academics if that's what you want to do. But ultimately, you got to be in charge of your own success. You don't want to get, bogged down or locked down in what people call development hell in the industry. Let's say where someone wants to make your movie, and then they kind of jerk you around for 1 or 2 or 3 years, or they pay you an option and they never do it, and then it's like, well, I just wasted 3 years. And so you want to avoid that. So you got to be able to move strategically. But in this environment, there are certain projects that you can do on your own that you don't need that infrastructure anymore. One of the most important things about going to college, though, is the connections that you make, because the people that you're helping out on their films, you're going to parties with, you're having lunch with, you're having late night conversations with, they might be the next Steven Spielberg. They might be the next, what's his name?
They might run a distribution company.
They might run a distribution company. Sandra went to college with somebody who later started Without a Box. And that's the big, it was the big online film submission, film festival submission platform. And so
before Film Freeway.
Yeah, before Film Freeway. So you never know who you're going to meet or what they're going to do. People that I went to college are now like the head of development for like Stars or Netflix, or they worked at Apple
Simpsons.
or Google or The Simpsons. So this goes back to, again, making friends early, helping people out, and building a team early on. Because, one of the groups that when we talk to people about, well, how do you finance a film? Everyone always says dentists. It's like, what? Yes, dentists all want their girlfriends or their wives to be in a film, and they have money, so they will produce money. So, so if you have friends who are dentists or people with money and they like you, then that's something, a network to have. So make those networks. Another golden rule is that if people like you, they're more willing to work with you. And then, like I said last week, if they don't like you, you could be the best at what you're doing. They're not going to work with you because nobody wants a headache. And so don't be that person. But be at this stage in your career, like I said, this is about developing your personality, your workflow, your strengths and your vision, and being able to make that happen. So what else? Like I said, if you can't get money, ask for something. We talked about getting a credit. If there's something else you need, I'll help you work on your film if you help me work on my film. I'll edit your film if you shoot my next film. Can I borrow your sound equipment? Can you show me how to use iMovie? And as a producer, there's so many things that you bring to the table that are not just in the film community. Let's say you need food. You go to a restaurant and said, I'll film your commercial if you donate so much food for my project. There's cross ways to make that. I'll promote your product if you let me, lend me clothes for costumes, things like that. And people like social media exchange right now. They're really big on numbers, but they're also big on quality. Because even if you don't have the numbers, like they said last week, you can film something and it can get 12 million views. So you can build as you go, and you guys at your career are building as you go. I always prefer to think of it, like I said, as an exchange of energy. So you don't want to be on the drained end or on the draining end of that. It all comes back to you in the end. And Irene and Mario said that last week also. But to be conscious of that if you feel, and this was a question that came up last week, how do you tell when it's no longer healthy? You'll know. You'll get to feel it. Your body will tell you when you're feeling drained or your resources are drained. And the quickest test that I have is if you're helping someone and you feel that, ask them for something that you need, and you'll be able to tell really quickly if they're willing to help you or not. And sometimes it's just best to do it as a test. But the reality is we all have needs. Can you give me a ride somewhere? Can I, like I said, but in production it's mainly borrowing equipment. And now that it's cheaper, there's less risk of that. Like if you said to somebody, can I borrow your red camera? It's like, what, $20,000 or whatever it is. They're going to say no. But if you say, can I, borrow your, your iPhone so I can have a second camera on my shoot, or your iPad, it's a lot less risky. But make sure you get something back for what you do, because that's going to build your resources in the end. And a lot of people, they shed equipment too. Like they have lights and they buy better lights. So they're looking to get rid of their lights. They're looking to get rid of their mixer or something. Camera. So, or even cameras too. So if you're in the right place, and computers especially, people shed computers all the time because they're getting stronger. So if they got a new computer and they want to sell or give away their old computer and it's better than yours, don't be afraid to ask. Hey, I worked on your film for free. Can I buy your computer off you, or you're going to give it away? Let me know. But have those conversations always in your mind so that you can get something back for what you do. The next bit of advice is to make it easy to find you. And I'm speaking from experience because I generally don't make it easy to find me. But in my career, I realized that that's a strength. So the simplest thing to do is to make business cards, and you can get go to Staples, or you can get the pre-punched paper and print it out at home. But ultimately, when somebody wants something from you, you say, oh, here's my card. You don't have to write it. You don't have to whatever. Now that you have phones, you can also send your information. Like, oh, let me text you my contact information.
You need a website.
So do that. The next thing is to build a website. So that requires a little more time and money and energy.
It could even be a blog or link to your.
Okay, hold on. You got a presentation in a little bit, so please let me get my presentation. So let me just finish on business cards. You don't need a real fancy one. You can get a fancy one, but simple, like $9.99 for 50 cards or whatever it is. Just your name, your email. Doesn't have to have your phone number if you're not comfortable with it. It can have your website, your Facebook page, just because you never know when you're going to be standing next to Gail Ann Hurd or in that elevator with the producer or Danny Trejo. And the easiest thing is just to, here's my card, Second is the website. In the past, you used to be able to, you have to get a website, you have to host it. You have to, you know, have somebody build it. Now there's a lot of easy tools to do that are kind of drag and drop and really important, such as I think, what is it? Is
WordPress.
Well, WordPress, but there's easier ones like, what is it? Weebly, I think it's called.
Weebly, yeah.
But there's some that you just like, you log in and they're all templates and you just load in your photos, you type in your text, you can load in links to video and stuff, and it's done. You don't even have to host. Some are free, some are like $10 a month, but that's really, really important.
Squarespace and Wix.
Yeah, Wix and Squarespace. And a lot of those are set up for commerce. So if you don't have a product, your product is you. Your product is your projects. And then if you build it, you can create other products. Like we do a lot of stuff with silkscreen. We do a lot of stuff with video. We do a lot of stuff with performance. We do presentations. We do patches. And so our websites are kind of promoting one thing, but there's links to connect with us on those other levels. If people like you, they want to connect with you, they want to help you, the website is where to go. It's a good idea to register a domain. And it's like, could be like, you know, $15 a year. And then you can link that to your Facebook page. You can link that to your Wix page, but, or you can host it on its own server. So if you get a plan and you get the registration of the domain, you don't need to get the registration of the hosting if you have like Wix. It's good to have because then you can have your own email. Like if you have a hosting plan, you can have, you know, like Maddie@maddieteo.com and then have that as your email. Anything you do that lets people remember your name at this stage is really, really important. So if you come up with like a production company name or whatever, it's really important to get your name out there. So the other thing is, like I said, a Facebook page. Facebook page is great because you can do commerce on it, but you don't know who is out there, who's your Facebook friend. There's so many people that are my Facebook friends that are like really accomplished and award-winning producers, directors, writers that on Facebook I'm very social with, but I would never have met them in real life in any other way. And even though a lot of the stuff that I post is humor and they like it because I make them laugh and they're like, oh, hey, I really like what you said about this issue. The reality is now that we've built a relationship over years, I could at some point go, you know, hey, Luis Alberto Urea or Yareli Arizmendi, who I also know, you know, personally, or Jesus Trevino or Edward James Olmos or Mario Ponce. Hey, you know, I'm working on this project. Can you give me advice? Can you help me out? You know, can I interview you? You know what I'm saying? So Facebook is really, really important. Instagram is really important because a lot of people are looking for you there, but it's not as direct communication. But it is good at having an archive, like those photos that you were talking about, Angelica, of shooting. If you are passionate about shooting flowers or food or your pets or whatever, and you have a really nice Instagram site, people might like you because of that. And then you guys get to talking about other issues. So there are companies that you can use for hosting. We like HostGator. A lot of people use GoDaddy. We found that it's really expensive and doesn't give you a lot of the new tools. So do your research. If you are going to host your plan, there are very affordable ones that you can get for like $10 a month. They give you a lot of email storage, a lot of online storage, a secure socket layer, SSL, so you can do transactions. But the key right now is really integrating all these different platforms. How does your Facebook and your online giving, like Patreon, if people use Patreon, or Instagram, or your Wix site, how do they integrate in a totality of an experience? So if people want to get a hold of you, how do they know that they can hire you, what you're doing, what you like? That's kind of the thing right now. It used to be like, oh, we're going to do Facebook. And then suddenly everybody left Facebook. And now Facebook is only like people over like 35. And Latinos are still big on Facebook. But everyone went to Instagram, and now everyone's going to TikTok. I don't even know what TikTok is. I thought it was like a Tic-Tac, but some of you younger folks might know what TikTok is, but I don't. But people are using that. And if you know how to use it, that particular platform, you can get a lot of results. And if you can use it at a particular time, when it's at its height, you can really excel. There's a time when Twitter changed the world. Twitter was really important for Trump, getting his message out and then taking the election. I couldn't, give away a car on Twitter. Like, I tweet and like 5 people look at it. So because I don't know how to use the medium as much as I know how to use other mediums. So I'm going to gravitate toward what I'm successful at, but it's important to understand the other platforms. And as you build your team, get people who understand them, to be really aware. And producers need to do this. You're on the cutting edge of technology, the cutting edge of resources, the cutting edge of culture, of funding trends, of what projects are being made, where you get your information. Back in the day, I remember going to the newsstand and buying the Hollywood Reporter because that's where all the job listings were, right? Now, the Hollywood Reporter's online. You can find other ways to find jobs. Indeed is a really good place to look for jobs, indeed.com. And you can get on notification lists. And being in touch with groups like NALIP, the National Association of Latino Independent Producers. They're all about networking. They have a really amazing online resource of their members. So if you're a member of NALIP, you can log in, and it's like the Hollywood directory for Latinos. And those things, like the Hollywood directory, used to be this really big book, and it's still out there, I think. And it was like $100, something like that. Really expensive, but $300. It's like $300. So now there's resources that are free for you that you can use. Okay.
IMDb.
IMDb Pro is really good. IMDb is a site where you can go and look at films, and it gives you like all the information about them, who directed them, and everyone has their link and they have their profile. IMDb Pro goes a step further, and I think it's like 10, 15 bucks a month, where it actually lists their contact information. So stars will generally have their agent. Agents will list their clients. Movies will have their production companies, their distributors, phone numbers, emails, names. As a producer that's starting out, that is gold. And if you want to start out in the industry, like if you say Superstore, America Ferrera produces it, how do I get in touch with them? In the past, you'd have to call people who knows them. If it's a Hollywood Reporter, now you log into IMDb Pro, you find their production company, you call them, you send an email, and you inevitably you'll get in touch with somebody. You may not get in touch with America Ferrera, but you're one step close to a direct connection with her. And if you say something like, I'm working on a project, a fundraiser for a cause that she's it's really important to her, like say women in film or equity or whatever else, then that's valuable, because then the message will probably get to them, but then they'll send somebody back to get to you. And in this business, they say, if you want someone to help you, don't ask for money, ask for advice. If you ask for money, they'll give you advice. If you ask for advice, they'll give you money. And I think when you're in building relationships, that's really important. You don't want to ask too much of someone right off the bat, because everyone's always asking them for something. You want to get them to be comfortable with you, to like you, build a relationship. In the industry, the other adage is one of the most important people in the industry to connect you is the front desk person. I don't want to say secretary, but usually the front desk person, the operator, because they are the gatekeeper, and they can close a door or they can open a door, and ultimately they can help you with information. Oh, don't talk to that guy, he's not going to help you. Call this person. Or no, you really want to get this person. I know we at the OC Film Fiesta, we really wanted to screen Roma from Cuarón before it was out, because there's some films we see, we're like, oh my God, we got to show that. That's perfect for our community. It's exactly what we need. And it took several weeks of contacting different people at Netflix to finally find the right person. But I was connected to that person by someone at another festival who had shown the film that I had contacted. And they're just like, well, try this person. So the path that you take is very important, but you want to make friends with that front desk person. Like I said, they could be a total gatekeeper. They could just completely shut you out. And face-to-face is also really important, not so much possible right now, but going to mixers, going to writers' mixers where you meet people, that's really important, because like I said, it's about whether somebody likes you. And if you're having a drink with someone at a mixer, you may not know that they're a producer or that they're famous or that they're doing the same thing, but if they like you, they'll invite you into their circle, onto their team, give you a chance. And like Irene and Mario said last week, the guy who made Hermanos was a 17-year-old kid, no experience, no money. And it's a really tough situation to go and say, I'm going to invite a star to a meeting and tell them I don't have any money and I want them to make a film. But as a producer, that's what you got to do. And you got to have the social skills and the people skills in order to do that. So let me see. I was going to show a clip from my documentary Esquina del Mundo.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, so well, let me set that up. Well, let me talk about, I'll get back to that because I have Aztec Gold set up. Let me guys talk to you. Oh, no, here it is. Okay, so I'm going to share with you, this is the first piece that I did in 1999, and I think it was standard definition video 8. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and I think I can talk over it too, so hang on. Okay, and I'm showing this because they just closed the border, so inter-border understanding and cultural understanding is really important. So this was done in 1999. This is a bad video quality because that's what we had at that time. It's like 14.4 modems. So La Esquina del Mundo, Tijuana, the border, and rock and roll. And this here is Tijuana No. There was a big concert in Tijuana that had like 8 groups, and my friend and I just said, we need to go film that. So he had a nice camera, and we hooked into the soundboard, and I had another camera that didn't have an XLR connection.
O sea, hay una raíz muy fuerte, el movimiento político, la represión policíaca, la justificación de ciertas situaciones del joven por luchar por su espacio y por ser respetado, con un ritmo que siempre fue atacado y menospreciado por la sociedad mexicana. México vive más de un grupo rockero que se revela ante una sociedad en medio de un país lejos de las fronteras.
Enorme, sorprendente, es un gran monstruo y esto nos ha servido de comunicación durante muchas décadas y siento que es un grito de guerra de los jóvenes, ¿no?
Had a really long intro.
Bueno, de hecho yo creo que siempre ha estado vinculado el rock con la juventud y la rebeldía propia de la juventud, ¿no? Yo creo que esto es más que una tradición, se sigue arrastrando el rock, a pesar de los intentos que se ha hecho por monopolizar el aparato económico, el poder, no han logrado del todo, ¿no? Siempre está muy vinculado. Como decía Che Guevara, ¿no? Que ser joven y no ser revolucionario es una contradicción hasta biológica, y el rock es una manifestación de eso, ¿no?
No pasará de este lugar, la resistencia y un paso atrás, a defender la dignidad, gritando fuerte, tierra y libertad.
So I'll stop it there. But you get an idea, and just from like a producer's perspective, we knew something exciting was happening in Tijuana, and we wanted to film it. So volunteering to film this concert, we got in free. There were like 8 bands. They're really, really amazing. And then we had a day of interviews at another event where we just stopped people on the street and interviewed them. That made me a producer. Didn't cost anything. Put it out there, put it on YouTube, and it's had like, I don't know, like 16,000 views or something like that. And like, wow, you know, I got a global audience here. And what's great about that is it captures a moment in time. Like I said, Tijuana Knows went on to be huge. The message is still very relevant. It captured that moment, which was what we were really inspired by. So as you work on projects, especially, you know, like a music project, Salvador's project, you don't know where you're going to be 20 years later, but the important thing is to catch what excites you about this moment right now. The next project I want to tell you about that we did is called Aztec Gold. And that started out, Pocha and I started teaming together in about 2005, and we went to an arts conference in Berkeley at La Peña Cultural Center. And their person who did the documentation had fallen through. So we brought our camera because we said, oh, we'll do interviews with people. And so we volunteered to document. And then we decided, I bought a mask at another cultural center. And I said, you know, why don't we just interview people as in character? We'll create a character, we'll interview people. And people liked it so much that got mobbed. They didn't even know it was me. Like I'd be wearing the same clothes and I'd interview people and I'd take off the mask and come back and they wouldn't know that it was me. It's like, oh, I just got interviewed by this guy in a mask. And I'm like, dude, I'm wearing the same clothes. It was obviously me. I have a goatee. How many luchadores have goatees? And, but we knew we had a hit. So we built that and we started doing more. And then we did this piece called The May 1st March at the Border, which I'll share with you as well, which also has gotten a lot of hits. I think this is off the Vimeo page, so it might be good quality. And I'll talk through it a little bit. But this was us going, you know what? Let's make a character and just have fun. Like this is a way to address the things that are important to us in a way that we're good at. Alves, Astrid Haddad, Hernandez brothers from Love and Rockets, Gilbert. Into Comic-Con, there's Jack Black. Sergio Aragones from Mad Magazine, interviewed Magu, a important artist. Guillermo Gomez Peña.
History on Aztec Gold, the May 1st March to the Border.
One camera, one microphone, no lights. Pocha on camera. It's 2005, I think.
Okay, we're here with the Statue of Liberty on a historic day, May 1st, 2006, at the border. You marched the entire way. Liberty is depending on this march, no?
Yes, it is. It is depending on this march. We all need liberty. Every human being should have equal liberty and justice.
What do you think of the triple fence they are building, Lady Liberty?
Triple fence? I say, hop even higher. Leap that fence. Destroy that fence. Burn that fence down if it is in the name of liberty. That is what I say.
All right, do you have any shout-outs, Lady Liberty? Any shout-outs to your peeps, I think they're called?
My peeps are all the peeps of the world. And I think that we should all come together. There should be statues of liberty in every community. So that we can all remember that we are all the same in this one colossal struggle against capitalist imperialism.
If we were to build a statue here, as tall as the statue in New York Harbor of the Virgen de Guadalupe, would you be okay with that?
I would be okay with that, provided the workers who built it were paid a fair wage.
Estamos aquí para apoyar a todos nuestros hermanos hispanos y decirles que estamos con ellos y que aquí estamos y de aquí no nos vamos. Y si nos llevan, nos regresamos.
Danos una jua.
¡Ay! ¡Viva Zacatecas!
¡Que viva!
¡Que viva México!
¡Que viva!
¡Que viva Sudamérica!
¡Que viva también!
¡Que vivan todos los hispanos!
Ese eres tú. Gracias. We're here with the legendary Ray Aguila and his alter ego, Ray Aguilar. Ray, welcome to San Isidro.
Welcome. Buenos venidos, Santo Isidro.
cauliflowers. We understand you were on El Otro Lado. What was it like on El Otro Lado? Very fine. A lot of good beer. And the people were just ready, moving in and grooving to stop the border. They shut it down. Of course, I was there to lead them on, and it was beautiful. What was the message of the people of Mexico today? Hey, there is no border. We'll always be here, or we're not leaving. You were telling me earlier today that you had a message for Mr. Bush that Ronald Reagan once said to Mr. Gorbachev. Tear down these walls, Mr. Bush. The Iron Curtain, please tear it down. Órale, no more walls, no more borders. Viva la raza! Yeah, salud. Viva la raza.
El 1 de mayo dejamos de comprar y trabajar, luchamos por justicia y la libertad.
We're here with the legendary Chunky Sanchez of Los Alacranes, who just performed today in front of thousands of immigrants. His repertoire of fine movimiento songs, including your new one, Primero de Mayo. Tell us about Primero de Mayo.
It's a beautiful day. It's a day to remember immigrants and the things that the contributions that they have made to build this country, even though they're trying to be made in the image of criminals and just a bunch of no good people. When in essence, this country would not be what it was if it wasn't for Mexicanos coming here to work and establishing familias and live here. This is California. This is the southwest of the so-called United States, which at one time belonged to Mexico. And you can't run Mexicanos out of here because it's like trying to run a lizard out of the desert. It's going to come back to its habitat. And we keep coming back because we belong here.
Is that an old Aztec saying, trying to run a lizard out of the desert?
No, it's just, I'm from the desert, so I'm familiar with lizards. It's true. You can't run a lizard out of the desert. They'll come back.
With their friends.
Yeah, they'll bring more.
So that was the piece that we did, Aztec Gold. These are a lot of people who were our friends too. So we actually went to this live event and, you know, had a rapport with people so that we had kind of a shorthand of, let me stop this here, hold on. So we had a shorthand of how to, like really connect with people. And because it's fun, you know, we're going to an event where they're protesting a situation that's on the border. They actually did shut down the border that day. So that was our friend Ricardo Duffy. We put a mask on him and said, "Be a wrestler." And then his Spanish wasn't that great, but he had just been on the other side, and literally they had shut down the border, the protesters. So he had walked across and was giving us live reportage of what had happened. And again, a chronicle of a moment. So we went with this project. And we said, we've got something here. We applied for a NALIP program, the Latino Media Market, and we put together some more clips and submitted a proposal, and we actually won. And the prize for the NALIP Latino Media Market was a production deal. So we're really excited. And without mentioning names, I'm going to kind of give you our story because it's an important learning experience. And there's another phrase that I'm going to say at the end that's also an important part of being a career and a person and being a producer. So we had won this, and we were connected with a production company that was supposed to do a pilot for this as an actual series. So we were excited, and one thing led to another, and it wasn't really working out. They wanted to buy our project without us as producers, just like in name only, created by, and that there was no guarantee that we would be on this or what they would do with it. And then because this was something that we cared about, that we wanted a certain image, a vision, they were very interested in, well, how do we sell advertising through this? How do we embed advertising into your product? That was like the first thing they said to us. It wasn't like, what do you want to do with it? How can we have fun? Who are our guests? What's the style? All the stuff you would expect. It was like, okay, this is great. How do we sell ads in it? And because we come from a social justice background, we're like, well, that's not, doesn't feel comfortable. So long story short, we ended up having to walk away, and they wanted to buy it for $2,000. And we're like, that's not even a lot of money to buy a project. Like, so we had to say no. And the lesson is, you've got to be prepared to walk away. If something's not right, you need to do it, especially early, because, you're not going to burn bridges. Everyone understands things don't work out. But if you don't feel comfortable with it and it's your project, you can walk away. That's an option. Don't give it away. Don't sell it. Keep it. Because we went then to the Nalip and we said, this isn't going to work out. We really appreciated it, but we're going to have to walk away. And then the head of Nalip at that time said, okay, but you still get your prize money. And we said, wait a minute, what prize money? And they're like, you get $2,000. He said, the guy never told us that. He wanted to buy our own project with our own prize money. And so, so we were lucky. If we had signed, he would have had our project, paid us what we already had, and then he would have owned it, and there would have been no, and just could have just shut us out. So that was a really bad deal, not because of Nalip, because of this guy, but it was also because of what Nalip had taught us. We knew that we could walk away, even though it was a network, and I think they're not around anymore. But having that project, we have done so much with it, and we've built other things. We did our own independent videos. We've gone to events. We've spoken on it, and we include it in our grant proposals. So we own that project, and that's the lesson here, is that if you still own it, you can do whatever you want with it. And we recently got a Creative Capital grant, which is a really competitive grant to get, and that's part of our portfolio. If we had sold the project at that time, we wouldn't have been able to use it. We would have had to build other stuff, and I'm really happy with that decision, because it's an enjoyable project to be part of, and we can really just bust it out whatever we want. Like I recently did a PSA for voting on Super Tuesday in character, and put it online. It took 5 minutes to do, and like 1,000 people saw it in the first day. So to have that impact, that reach, your content, your product, your ownership is really, really important, especially at this stage in your career, because as you're writing and you're creating, 10 years from now, there may be an opportunity to sell or develop something that there wasn't now. Like everything goes into waves and trends. So like, let's say you do a Western and they're not buying Westerns. 10 years from now, they might be buying Westerns. And if you write it with a Latina lead, like Sandra's doing a Latina Western, they might want Latina Western specifically. So keep creating your content. You can always revise it. You can always redo it, revamp it. But don't edit yourself. Just get it out there. Get as much content, as many ideas, even if they're just like log lines or like 10 concepts, get them there, because it used to be that your calling card in Hollywood was a film. Like you go to Sundance or whatever, and then here's my feature film. I want to be a director. And then it was shorts, and then it was web series, and then it was scripts. Now it's not even scripts. I think it's more like concepts, because they want like 5 or 6 things that you can do, and they want to develop them, and they want to do it. But if you have 6 concepts and they want to pay you for one, and they want to develop it, that's okay, because you didn't put a lot of time and investment into it. If you did, if it's like a particular script and you want to be the right credited writer, then it is worth fighting for. But to not get discouraged, it's important to have early successes and achievable goals. So you don't, because a lot of things that people used to do in the past, they would have one project and they would shop that around for 5 years, and they would get totally dejected and totally burnt out and jaded. And you don't want to do that. If your project's not hitting right now, do something else. Work on somebody's music video, get experience, learn technology, make friends. And then that in the end will advance you in your career. So in building on what we do and using kind of the Aztec Gold experience as a starting point, Pocha and I have developed something called Practical Social Practice, because we wanted to figure out how we can impact positive change in other ways. So you can watch a film and change might be passive. You might inspire somebody, you might raise awareness. And Practical Social Practice is a discipline that says you do like interventions or activities in public to raise awareness, influence opinion, take a message, can be historically based. But we saw people doing a lot of social practice art that didn't really have any impact. Like people would go see it and be something in a storefront and we go, oh, that's neat, whatever, and then they go away. So we said, well, how do we use those skills to make change? So Practical Social Practice is about using those techniques, and as filmmakers, the same thing, but the audience is not the general public. The audience is decision makers, like city council, like a state representative, like a school board. So when you're addressing something that you care about, you use these creative tools in their arena so that you're playing to your strengths. So I don't know if you've ever been to a city council meeting, but usually it's angry people talking to a city council that's overwhelmed. They're going to tell you they can't do anything. They're going to delay you. They're going, you know, all these, and they're going to frustrate you. And as artists, we're not naturally predisposed to function that way. Activists are. They have really tough exteriors. They can come back time after time. They can jam up the council person and say, no, you're going to do this. And more importantly, in terms of activism, they can mobilize the community. So you say, oh, you're going to say no to me. I'm going to bring 100 people next week, and we're all going to talk about this issue. They're set up to do that. We're not. But we are set up to do video and produce events and think symbolically and think creatively. So
engage the media.
Engage the media. So we go, oh, you're not going to listen to me. You're going to listen to the Univision guy because he's here like filming this. So you use the media, but also in a positive way, again, about making friends. If you create your engagement in a way that they can understand it and like it and impacts them, kind of like as an audience, and it's visual, then you can use your tools to impact change. So say they're doing something that usually what comes up at city council meetings is potholes, lights, police brutality, parks, whatever. So traditionally someone would go in and say, we need more programs with parks, and here's a bunch of kids and here's a bunch of parents, right? And they all talking the same thing. So you can come in with a video about how a park changed somebody's life. Or, you know, like we do with research with the city council people in our community, we know a lot of them were in sports. So they'll say about arts, like, but don't artists want to be poor? You know, and we're like, no, it's like, because they think arts is like people on drugs, you know, they think people lazy, all the stereotypes. And they think of sports as discipline, teamwork, whatever. So we take all those things that they like about sports and show them how arts do the same thing. And then we tack on, but also arts generate a lot of revenue, because that's the other thing they care about is, are we going to cost us money or make us money as a city? And once we put it in those terms, once we've done our research and reflect back what we want in terms that they value, it makes it a lot easier to get to yes. And the same thing goes in when you're making a project. When you're talking to a producer or a funder or an actor, you really need to research them to know what's going to jibe between what they want and value and what you want and value. Because everybody wants something. Everybody wants to make a movie. Everybody wants to make the next Star Wars or Fast and Furious or the next whatever. But like I said, it may be about women's issues. It may be about the environment. It may be about, you know, even a certain style of food, because food is really popular. Everyone's doing food documentaries. Have you all seen Netflix's Taco Chronicles? You need to see Taco Chronicles, because you will fall in love with tacos. And anything that Trump says about Mexicans and Mexican culture, you watch one episode of Taco Chronicles and you're like, you fall in love with the culture. But the power of film to do that. And it's a huge success. So, and it's really, really well done visually. So, so as we do this and we look at the tools that we use to make our projects, and you know, you get the skills and resources to produce your work, it's important to understand that the approach that you take is very critical, but also you can build your own approach. Practical social practice has been really effective for us. And so I recommend using that because, you know, again, when you're talking about politics, what do you call it? The people that are going up to the council people, they have a lot of money. You know, the lobbyists, the PACs, they have a lot of money, but they don't have creativity. They're not good storytellers. They're very rigid in their construction, and they use the tools that they know work in their medium, but that's all changing. And our tools can connect with people at the human level. And Bernie Sanders' campaign's a real instructional thing. Obama's campaign was really instructional. And learn those lessons. Always be looking at what's working. And this goes back to, we were talking about platforms, apps, software, whatever. What's working for people, and try to learn how that can work for you. So that's kind of my presentation. Do you have any questions on any of that? No, you're all good? All understood it? Okay. All right. So now we'll get into Pocha's presentation, and she's a little more.
Comment?
What was that?
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
So when you mentioned the websites, I'm actually currently building my own, though it's more of an academic slant to it. So maybe I can share that to you guys. It's a work in progress.
Okay, and you can type the chats in there. So type it your address in the chat area.
Okay.
And then we can all see that.
Okay.
Yeah. And as it's an academic site, the important thing is to know who your audience is. So with academics, it's all about
curriculum vitae,
your CV and your publications, and so it needs to look like an academics site. And then you can build other sites that are more creative. But a lot of creative people make careers in academia, but they get their funding from the academic side to travel to whatever. And if you get money to say to go to a conference in Chicago, and you want to do a project in Chicago, you can still do your project in Chicago. Just use that other funding stream and other part of your career to get you there. Another what do you call it? Adage in producing is never use your own money. Not so much that you want to just use other people's money, but you don't want to put yourself at risk and outlay your own resources. You want to find a way to get them done, you know, without having to tap into that. The other one that I like is never work harder on a project than the person you're working for, because like Scar and Irene said, there are people that will just kind of use you and your creativity and your whatever to get themselves ahead. So if you see that they're not really working on as hard as you are,
bring that much to the table
creatively, and that you're doing all decisions, you need to get a producer credit or a writer credit or whatever if the money's not there, so that you can get something out of it. But if it's your creative content, your intellectual property, you want to try to own as much of that as possible as you can. Similarly to painters, where people will say to painters early in your career, sell a lot of your work because you want to get it out into the public and have people seeing you and get collected and say, oh, these people collect me. But then there are a lot of painters that regret that because they're like, well, 20 years later, it's worth a lot more and I wish I would have kept that. So you have to manage where you are, but ultimately it's important to get your name out there. Okay, so did you share your website? Okay.
I did. I put the link in the chat, so it's there. And so, no, it's an interesting thing that you just brought up, because I feel like I'm at a bridge where I'm a creative person, but I'm also an academic. So it's like, how do I communicate the two to both audiences? So it's a tricky place to be honest.
Yeah.
So that's the space I'm currently navigating.
A good person's website to look at is William Nariccio at San Diego State. He's the head of their, I think it's called MALA, Mexican American Letters. I'm not sure, but it's a MALA program.
He's also iGenie, right? And
I don't know. But his brand as a creative person is like, he's this underground rebel writer, and he publishes about culture, and he does this thing called, what's this project called?
Text messages.
No, there's another one he does.
Mexopolis
or something. Mextasy. So it's all like a cyberpunk pop, you know, rascuache aesthetic. And so his academic page communicates that, because that's his bread and butter. That's what distinguishes himself from other people. And that's also what is his bread and butter in terms of getting gigs at conferences and stuff. They want that Mextasy guy. So look at his page, because there's a lot of flexibility now. Right now, Latino is hot. You know, individual is hot. And, you know, you can find role models. Transgressive is hot. So you can find role models that, and kind of know where the boundaries are for where you do yours. But I would say my piece of advice, not to take it, but just because it's my perspective, is that what you do needs to differentiate yourself from the others. And looking at your page now, that is a certain brand. That tells whoever goes to it a certain thing. So if you're an academic or you're a college or a conference and you're looking for Latina, Mexican American people, that says that right away. Like they know who you are just from looking at your photo. But you have a lot of control over it. So don't be like the cookie cutter, vanilla,
stand out
academic. Be the you're selling yourself. You're producing your career. You're the content, the papers that you write. That's your product right now. Okay, so that's kind of what I have. Any other questions? And also look at like
yeah, I just wanted to comment.
Yes.
So right now I'm trying to build myself because I feel like, so if anyone wants any help on developing their website, their social media accounts, or like Arlette, like you're confused on, you don't understand what strengths and like how to present yourself, like I'm open to talking and just supporting anyone in any way. Just because I kind of understand that concept about brand developing and like really finding like your community. So I'm open if anyone needs help. Yeah, just you can email me and I'm here to help with anything on those terms.
Awesome. Thanks, Angelica.
Thank you.
And feedback is really, really important. As creative people, sometimes we get stuck in a little cave. And whether you're working on a script, whether you're working on a grant, whether you're working on a pitch, a proposal, a presentation, a website, it's so valuable to get somebody else's opinion. Fresh set of eyes, second set of eyes, because they may see something that you don't. Something as simple as a misspelling, or as complex as a fundamental approach, But feedback is free. So and this is where you can also go to reach out to people like I would say to Arlette to find academics that are doing similar work, and especially on Facebook, and reach out to them. If you read a paper or a book by someone that inspires you, you can now reach out to them directly, even if it's just to say, hey, I liked your book. I really like what you said about this, da 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 da. It's not about writing a letter. It's not about sending an email. You can just message them instantly and build your network as you go. Okay, so any other questions before I hand it over to Pocha?
I just also wanted to make a comment for Arlette and also Angelica along the same vein. I have to do like pitch consulting. Like at work, but also I've done it a lot with friends, people who are developing their websites or their shorts or like trying to sell ideas. You have to make a pitch or a treatment or a mission statement. And I find it really hard to do on myself, but I know how to do it for other people. So if you want help developing your website, like I hate my website, I won't show it to people because I don't know how to make it good, but I know how to help other people. So if you want help with like the bio or like what's your mission statement or what's your about me or how do you frame your important projects, like that stuff I like doing and I know how to do. So just letting you know.
Awesome. And one other thing that I want to stress to you all as you embark on your career in anything is that you don't need to invent the wheel. You don't need to start from scratch. There are templates out there. Experience is the best teacher. And you can learn from other people's experiences, especially their mistakes, because someone doesn't want somebody to make the same mistakes that they did. And that's a quick shortcut to not making them yourself. But don't be afraid to ask for help. And I really am excited that you guys are offering to help each other. Do try to gel as a community. Share your, what do you call it? Your ideas. And I don't know if it's best to create a Facebook group, or are you all on Facebook? Hold on, show me a hand if you're all on Facebook. Okay, so I'll connect with you all to get your Facebook pages, and we'll create a Facebook group because that'll seem like it'll help facilitate dialogue. Okay, so let me hand it over to Pocha. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello.
Pocha.
Hello. Do I need to unmute
Oh yeah,
myself?
let me unmute you because I muted you here. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, take it away, Pocha.
Okay, here I am. So, Pocha Peña, also known as Sandra Pocha Peña Sarmiento, and I grew up in Orange County. My dad worked at Disneyland. Ooh, we're having an echo. Do you need to turn yourself off? You're muted. Oh, I don't know what's going on.
I'll go get your headphones, I think. Okay, you got both of these.
Well, this one's not logged in.
Okay. Should I turn the volume down?
It is all the way down.
Oh, really? Okay, let me get your headphones.
Okay, so I'm gonna get some headphones. Hopefully that'll help. But in the meantime, I came from a very entertainment pop approach, since my dad worked at Disney and I was on the back lot a lot as a kid, seeing these crazy things being built, like 30-foot styrofoam sandwiches and giant bumblebees, for the parade. My dad worked over with some of the wood working over in the mill, so it was like a real factory of dreams. I think like working or growing up on a Méliès film, for those of you that are familiar with his work. So I wanted to follow up with what Victor was talking about practical social practice, and how part of the outcome of that, the goal, is to create tangible social change, to actual tangible change to the communities affected. So it's not like you just do this cerebral, art thing with the community.
See if that works.
But you
hold
actually
on.
get to affect their everyday world and conditions. And that policy would result from that, some kind of new policy. So some of the ways we do that, Victor talked about some of those, but they are really engaging with the media. As media makers, we know how to engage with the media. We know what they're looking for in stories, so we can translate some of the how we represent community issues, community stories. We can shape them, present them in a way that they're easy for our media professionals to pick up and cover. We know how press releases need to look. We know what entices the media beast, so we can, as activists, shape and package our community issues and struggles into something that can be covered and can be supported by this machine, right? The other and a big part of that, another part of that is storytelling. As storytellers, I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the language, the visual language of storytelling. But storytelling is super important, because until you can really pierce that shell with a human story that elicits a human emotion, it's really hard to pierce through all these different agendas and loyalties that people bring, to the political and governmental process. Almost every representative or staffer is going to have a predisposition to want to support a certain area at the expense of another, or some inertia that needs to be overcome. Our public workers are often really overloaded. Our politicians are, especially at the municipal level, are often, also very, very impacted. And on top of that, they usually have to continue with their professional lives as well as their public service lives. So these are groups of people that wield tremendous power, but they're also have very limited time, very limited attention. So as skilled storytellers that know how to rope in the media, we can be very powerful players in that arena, and that is practical social practice. So moving on, also I wanted to talk about social media. I am very present in social media. I try to establish a healthy boundary between my own personal life and social media by approaching social media as performance art. So when I first set up my Facebook page, when I first set up, my Instagram and those, some people say, well, that's manufactured reality. yeah, it is manufactured reality. And don't you forget it, know it from the start. So think of how you want to portray that, you know, brand that that has authentic roots in yourself and what you bring to the table and your personal history, and know that it is performance art. So everything that you put on should, you know, all roads should lead to Rome, to, you know, the larger, sorry, that's Eisenstein in the background. Moving on. Okay, as you're working, as you're getting started establishing your professional practice, I agree with Victor that it's very important to work on other people's things, but to really work. I also went to film school. I went to film school as an undergraduate and then continued as a graduate, which I kind of regret, because I think I would have gotten a lot more had I just moved from my undergrad film degree and just started working in the industry. I had a lot of colleagues and, you know, fellow students that just went right into the industry. And I think that it's such a mutable beast that you kind of just need to be in it and get those real world skills. But I did want to continue with my MFA, and I did get some, you know, benefit from it. I started to learn how to speak that academic language, how to present myself in academic circles, and maybe it'll come in handy someday, who knows. But let's see here. So try to work at real-time work on other people's projects. And a lot of times working on other people's things, production, going from production to production, that's really a young thing, you know. That's something that you want to do when you have more youth, when you have that energy, when you're, you know, when you still have that reserve to draw from. If you're still in school, it's a good time because at least you have a lot of your, you know, basic needs met, you know, your shelter, and you know, your food and shelter met, so you can take more chances in the things you volunteer and intern for. There's always great internships, but you know, usually don't really get paid a lot for those, or you can get academic credit. Look for internships. They're in very high places. You know, network internships are really great to have. For myself, when I got into the professional industry, I had a lot of people counsel me that I might lose myself, you know, that it's a place that really bombards you. It takes a lot of your time and it could really strip you of your identity. So I was counseled to choose an industry within the industry, a sub-industry that I had a personal connection to at my core level. And that would kind of help keep me grounded as I entered into this beast. And it is a beast. For those of you that are working with the industry, you know how consuming it can be. So for myself, I chose to enter and focus on Spanish language television. That's doing work for Univision, Telemundo, a Spanish-speaking community. And that was challenging because my Spanish is not perfect. I am called Pocha for a reason. You know, I speak Pocha Spanish, and I am definitely that half-breed, you know, that Lucky Charm eating, Scooby-Doo watching Pocha. That's me. So, but nonetheless, you know, I think that was a really good choice to go into Spanish language television, because the people that get into Spanish language TV, as a rule, we get about half of the budgets of English language shows. And, but the people that work those shows, I think they have a lot of heart in it, you know, to work for half the rate, because it appeals to your gente, it speaks to people like your mother, you know, like your aunts, and your cousins, you know, that brings special meaning. So it tends to be people that really have a cause, or are activists, or are artists that really have a passion and a commitment to their practice. And those are wonderful friendships that you can carry forward even outside of the mainstream TV field. So there's a lot of people that I met when I was working on shows, you know, mainly variety shows and game shows for Univision and Telemundo. So a lot of those people, even though some of them may not work in film and TV anymore, because they're at their core artists, they're still working. They're still working in ways that are meaningful to the work that I do. So we're doing plays, or they're doing art shows, and we're able to collaborate still in front of the camera, behind the camera, or in peripheral industries. And those kinds of relationships, again, are very meaningful and authentic. So let's see here. I have some video samples I sent you, Victor. I don't know if you have them queued up. I sent you 3 most recently. Yeah. We'll start with the Elvis decanter, just the beginning of it. And I'll set that up as I give my last 2 bits of advice. So besides working on other people's projects, number 2, I would say work on your own projects. Always have something that, you know, you're playing around with, that you're, you know, that some narrative that you're working out, and have an investment in. You know, there's that saying that something like your first 30 scripts are horrible, and then you start doing really good work. So that you want to get like your first 30 scripts out of the way. And that's kind of painful, you know, for somebody like me to think, because you invest a lot of time in those scripts. But I think that even just sketching out a script, even just sketching out an idea, even if you don't fully flesh it out, even if it's just a treatment that you set aside and you come back to it later, just having that written down really is important, because you might cannibalize it later for another project. You might be in the writing room and you're like, oh, I remember this narrative. I was struggling it with before, but now in this context, I can just insert it in as a, you know, B story, or, you know, some other element, and it's going to be perfect. So you always want to hold on to those. There's a Chinese saying that I'm really big on. I constantly repeat it to Payan and to people that I work with, and that's, when you have an idea, you've got to write it down. The saying is, let me see here. Oh, the faintest ink is more powerful than the sharpest memory. So learn that. The faintest ink is more powerful than the sharpest memory, because, or the strongest memory, because no matter how deeply resonant you think a memory is, stuff happens in life. You know, you meet somebody, they, you know, set your world afire. There's a freaking pandemic that suddenly appears on your doorstep, and now you got to scramble, you know. So there's so many things that will impact you in life, time passing, moving, that all these ephemeral ideas that you have in your head, if they're gone, when they're gone, they're gone. You know how hard it is when you're on a tangent and you forget something that was the point of what you were talking about, or you just can't recall that name. It's very important that you write things down. A lot of filmmakers, professional filmmakers, you know, they carry that little moleskin book, or they constantly have a little book or a journal or something every day. They have a practice, a blog of daily writing. I think that that's a very good practice. Just like artists often have a daily sketchbook and they just doodle around in it every day to keep in condition. It's important as producers and as creative makers that we constantly have that daily practice of putting our things down. Always have some way that you can document things. I tend to prefer index cards. I'm really big on index cards and Sharpies. You know, I've got my Sharpie. Well, I have it here somewhere. There it is. I have my Sharpie. I'm very rarely too far from a Sharpie in some shape or form. I buy them in colors because then I can color code things. I'm really big. I'm a librarian that way, and a Virgo that way. And but I always have something to write on. I always have a Sharpie or a pen of some kind. So that's very important as well. So now we're going to go into one of the very first projects that I produced, and that was, as Victor showed you, one of his first projects. Mine I produced when I was probably about 16 or 17. I would say 17, because I remember that I was still too young to get into the underage clubs, which was, I think they started at 18 in Los Angeles at that time. So I actually could not get into some of the venues that you'll see in this video here. This was for some friends of mine. They had a band. At that time, it started out as a little garage punk band. And then they got signed, they became very big. Today, you know them as the Vandals. And of course, they're one of the big seminal punk bands from that, 80s Orange County scene, one of our big West Coast, musical legends. And I was really fortunate to meet some of the guys that were local, because we're all from Orange County. And thanks to, Joey Escalante, big shout out to him, he's still doing great stuff. We were able to put together a video shoot. And I actually registered at OCC College, which I think somebody here is an OCC student, because at that time, cameras were so expensive that the only way you could really get equipment is to sign up for community college. You didn't have to show up to class all the time, but you could get access to that equipment. And that's what we did. We got access from OCC, and I think Chapman University, helped us with I don't think they knew they helped us, but they helped us with the post and the sound mix later. But with shooting, that's how we actually got the shoot to happen. And so we used locations that we knew, in Huntington Beach, and I think Safari Sam's and different clubs. And as I said, some of these clubs I could not get in on. So when you see the stage jumping and the shots where, there's stage diving and there's actual playing on the stage, that was at a nightclub. But as a producer, I set all that up. We storyboarded everything. We envisioned this video. I set up all the locations. We shot it only on weekends because everybody worked. So every Saturday, Sunday, for about 3 weekends, we would go out to the desert and we would shoot in this cafe and different places. The girl in the cafe that, is in the bad relationship that gets the glass thrown at her, she was someone that worked at a bookstore with me. So she was a wonderful bookstore clerk over at Rizzoli at South Coast Plaza, which is of course now shut down for the pandemic. The guy who plays the abusive boyfriend was one of the roadies for the Vandals and a lot of other bands, DI and other bands. So these were all local kids. We were all just used everything that we had at our disposal. And I think we shot the whole thing for maybe $200, honestly. And it was on film. It was on 16 millimeter film at that time. We had short ends. And I think we transferred to video. And then we edited all on video. But of course, those were those big 1/2-inch tapes. So we needed, access to those machines. You couldn't just do it on your laptop or at home. But we were able to get all that together. So I'll just show this to you so you can kind of get an idea. This ended up making it on MTV 120 Minutes, or that show. I don't know if it's still on anymore, where people could submit videos. But since by the time it was edited and broadcast, by then I think I was 18. And so I was then looking at colleges and places to go. And I graduated with like a 1.2 grade point average because had a problem with, I had to work. So I had a problem with truancy because it was hard for me to hold down a job and then go to high school at the same time. Yeah, so I got alternative opportunities to labor, and this video, actually, I was going to join the military because I wanted to go into maybe some kind of video work in the military. But because of this video, Chapman University made me a wonderful offer to join their video program, even with my grade point average. And it really changed my life. So again, just do your own work. I don't know if I could even produce a video like this today because it would be so complicated. But when you don't know how big the boundaries or the barriers are, then you don't see them. So with that said, we'll go over to this Vandals video from 1980s Orange County. We had a big dramatic opening because we're learning.
But she's setting the mood and the tone.
I didn't edit it, guys. I wish I did. But I was in Spain. There it is.
again, but as long as
in the image of the king. The more I drank from it, the less I saw of you. That bottle's empty now, and you and I are through.
So Orange County.
This aired on MTV.
Yes, it did. It was in rotation there, and that was a wonderful, experience in learning how things work. Now, what didn't work about that shoot for me is I didn't know that about having Final Cut, or even that I could request to have some involvement. Okay. Okay. So I didn't know that you could really ask for, edit approval, or that you could ask for, certain credits or credit sequence at the end. So after we did production, I actually had to leave because I got into an exchange program in Spain, in Madrid, at the Universidad Complutense, where I was studying video art with, oh, I see. Okay, that's how. There we go. That works even better. So I don't have to put seeds. I don't have to put seeds under the stand. So, yeah, so I was gone, and I really didn't have a lot of communication with the guys on the crew, because I was the only female on that project. And, especially back then, there's a little issue you're dealing with, guys, you're the only female. There's not a lot of females in the industry, especially back then in the late 80s. And so I kind of lost the project. I was happy to see it on YouTube. And, like I said, I didn't do the editing. So there's like some kind of jokey, very OC kind of frat boy inspired, I think, not frat boy inspired, but you know what I'm saying. It was very guy, I think, imagery that was not in my vision. But I'm glad it got done, and it was a good first step. It was my only bitterness was that I kind of didn't have the masters. I didn't have any of the tapes. So later on, when guys from the band even came to me and wanting to do a re-edit or to use the tape for another purpose or an alternate purpose, there was nothing really I could do to access it. You know, I had my own toxic relationships with some of the guys, or you know, one of the guys on that crew. So it became a little bit of a power thing, and it just had bad feelings for me. And unfortunately, that happens. Now I know that I can ask for certain things at the very beginning, or discuss certain things at the very beginning so that we're all on the same page. It's always best, like I said, write it down. You know, the faintest ink is more powerful than the strongest memory. So even though you have verbal agreement with everyone, it's always best to write it down. Even if it's handwritten and you all sign onto it, there's that black and white understanding of all aspects. And that, you know, I think even today there's still some, you know, still projects that we learn that lesson, we relearn that lesson, where you want to have a nice, you know, oral agreement with people, but you really, until they're written down, you really have no proof that reality even existed. And so that always serves as a reminder why we need to, you know, put it down on ink. So now moving on, after that, I went on and I did start to do video art. I was mentored by Bill Viola, so I did a lot of very, very ephemeral video art, very artsy stuff until I got to UCLA, and then was put onto a more commercial track. Yes, my experimental videos, then paused for about a decade while I worked in television, doing mainly, we're going to be queuing up the Buscando Pareja clip next that I sent you. Yeah, it was the second link in that email. So anyway, so then I went on, as I said, to doing Spanish language television, and a lot of the game shows, especially that I did, were the Spanish language versions of English language game shows. So just like in the olden days, they would shoot, you know, the old Dracula films over on the studio lot, and then after hours at night, the Spanish language crew would come in, and the Spanish language actors would take over the same roles, they'd wear the same costumes, and they would do the Spanish language version. So that's what we did. We would shoot the Spanish language version of the dating game in the winter when the English language crew was on hiatus. And we did that with Newlywed Game, with Dating Game, and with Millionaire. And so those projects were for Telemundo. I think Millionaire was for, I think, another station, but we had about a little less than half of the budget. So our prizes were not that great. You know, we didn't get to fly people out to Acapulco. We would, they'd win like tickets to Acapulco restaurant, maybe in Echo Park or something. And so it was really hard for us to get crew. It was hard for us to get people, talent, because Latinos, being mainly working class, really can't take the whole day off. They don't get days off, especially if they're strong Spanish speakers in Los Angeles. You know, we're pochas like me, you know, we mix Spanish and English. So to get those Spanish speakers to be the contestants, especially in the dating game, the men, the pickers, or the pickies, because the picker is the person who picks the bachelor. So the potential dates, we actually ended up taking a truck out to Home Depots, you know, and hired, you know, day laborers and paid them their day rate, and, you know, gave them makeover, put them showered, costume, haircuts, and makeup, and it was a surreal experience. Sometimes, you know, we would pay aspiring actresses to be our picker, and so it was a fun but very surreal experience to be doing Spanish language game shows for almost a decade. And we have an example of that right here.
take it away.
And this was also at a time, and again, like I said, there's trends and there's timing, whatever. This is at a time where Spanish language TV was really getting huge. It was right after Ricky Martin and that, Latin Wave or whatever it was called. And
Okay, so we get it. I think we'll queue up the last one.
yeah, if you want to find out who she picks,
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Just look up Buscando Pareja Telemundo. The last one's going to be the Aztec Gold Glamour Shots Open.
Are you guys still seeing the video there?
Okay.
Still share screen. And just one note I want to make is that a lot of the people that Pocha worked with.
I think you're muted.
Oh, am I muted? I think we're all muted. Okay. Okay, just real quick before we get to the next clip. A lot of the people that Pocha met and worked with at that time, they're all doing different things. One of them again is like head of acquisitions at a studio. One of them, they're all doing really interesting stuff. So the people that you meet
founded newspapers.
They're newspapers. They've been publishers of magazines. They're actors. They're running theaters. And she still sees people like 20 years later. Goes, hey, remember when we worked on Maria Montez Alonso shows? Oh my God, yes. So this is a friendship you make as you go.
So now this is, by contrast, then we decided to merge my sensibility with Victor's sensibility coming from documentary performance art. And we created something, of course, I'm a very fond of the, Nouvelle Vague, as is Victor, French filmmakers and art films. So this is done in that style. You'll notice that our microphone is a Andy Warhol inspired banana. And we'll let you see some of this.
This is Artie, somebody's not muted.
Here we are, Art Walk, Los Angeles, glamour shots, Rigo Maldonado, Victoria Delgadillo. People are being turned, ordinary citizens, into glamorous creatures of the night, or as we see here, the early afternoon. This is an example of what can happen to you in the glamour shots. Mija, tell us, how does it feel to be glamorous? Oh, you're the silent type. Don't play like that, baby. No, okay, well, we'll talk to you later. We will now meet the brainchild of the glamour shots phenomenon, the artist Rigo Maldonado, who is here with us today. Rigo, tell us about the glamour shots.
Glamour Shots is a photos project. It's a store where you can come and turn from an ordinary suburbanite into a glamorous person. And it's just really important that we talk about glamour in a beautiful way and honor the people that make our world glamorous.
Because people are forgetting glamour in these troubled times. Let me give you a pop quiz. George Bush, glamorous?
No.
Karl Rove?
No.
Saddam Hussein?
Sometimes.
The underwear shot was kind of glamorous.
Yeah, that was kind of hot.
Madam, come here, Mija. Tell us, what is your name?
I'm Relina Dodson.
Relina, how does it feel to be glamorous?
Oh, child, as long as God's in my life, I'm going to be beautiful for the rest of it all the time. I don't care if I am 58 years old.
We have here the Pope of the Barrio.
Buenos dias. Buenos dias.
Tell us, Pope of the Barrio, how did you become the Pope of the Barrio?
I just drank a lot of wine when I would go get my food and stuff.
What do you think of the new Pope in Rome? He was a Nazi.
I guess it's cool. He's gangster at least. Keeping it gangster. We're the new branch of Pope, you know what I'm saying? Keeping it all gangster, bandana wearing, pants sagging, clip, something, all that good stuff.
But I notice on the back wall here we have former popes. There's Pope Sleepy and Pope Spider and little Pope Puppet.
Oh yeah. They're lower class popes. You know, I'm like a little higher with the masonry structure. You know what I'm saying? And people, yeah.
Too many popes die in gangland shootings today. It is sad. We must do something about this. Ghetto Pope, Barrio Pope. Keep it real. You, ma'am, are you here to see Miss 40 Ouncer?
I'm here to see Miss 40 Ouncer. I've been following her career when she was just a 10 ounce or 16 ounce. Then she went to a 22, and then she was down in 40s like it was leche.
She's here. Miss 40 Ouncer is here. The moment has arrived. What do you think about Miss 40 Ouncer being here?
The truth is here. Oh my God.
Miss 40 Ouncer. Miss 40 Ouncer. Miss 40 Ouncer.
We got the 40 ouncer.
We're all in, the humanity. We are all in shock. We are all in shock. The ribbon is about to be cut. Rigo Maldonado says forward and hands her the ceremonial 40 ouncer of freedom.
A little bit of 40 ounces on the front for all the dead homies.
Yes, for all the dead homies. For all the dead homies.
Yeah! Miss 40 ouncer! Yeah! Miss 40 ouncer!
Keeping it real. She's keeping it real.
Request in front of all of us here to please say a couple of words.
A couple of words.
A couple of words for all the dead homies, for peace in the barrio, and lead us in a little prayer, please, here for all of us. Everyone, get down on one knee, and let's hear these blessed words.
I think we should all just take a moment of silence for everyone that has passed away in all of our neighborhoods. I think we all know somebody that has passed away or has been injured due to gang violence, drugs, violence in our neighborhood, and we need to stop this. We need to stop as of today. Peace, everybody.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, yes!
Peace, everybody. The ceremonial handing of the Aquanet spray and the spraying. It is official. It is official. A spray of prayer. Spray of prayer. Spray of prayer, everybody. It is the torch, like the Statue of Liberty, the torch of freedom. Aquanet, aerosol.
Damn, that smells awful. But no, it's great. Peace. Now, if you could please, who has the ceremonial scissors?
The ceremonial scissors. Filero, the ceremonial filero of freedom.
Ladies and gentlemen, we don't even believe in scissors. We have straight.
You gotta get it and cut it. Cut it good.
Yay!
Yes, come on in.
The ceremonial cutting of the ribbon. Even the children.
Hey, watch out for this right now. This is a momentous occasion. Electronics. You're not only letting in people without style that are all tacky and drab, no one even notices them or anything as they walk down the street. You're letting in a future, a new generation of glamorous people. You are. Just know that. Ask your questions. Oh!
It has been cut. The ribbon has been cut. Miss 40 Ouncer inaugurates the glamour shot. Gallery 727.
Miss 40 Ouncer!
The crowd goes wild.
Miss 40 Ouncer! Miss 40 Ouncer!
Tell us, you announced the arrival of Miss 40 Ouncer. Tell us what happened. How did it feel?
You know, Miss 40 Ouncer, she's been there through the hardest times. Times when I was by myself, lonely, tired, or just thirsty. She's always somehow managed to help me, to be there, to take care of me like the mother I never had. But that's another story.
I think we've seen enough. This man obviously has a connection to Miss 40 Ouncer. What is glamour?
Oh, glamour is everywhere you go to these days. That's what glamour is.
Glamour is a state of mind?
No, it's wherever you go.
Glamour is anything you can do to heighten that sparkle in the eye.
What is glamour?
Glamour is fashion, is shininess, a lot of shininess. Shiny, shiny.
Is there glamour without shininess?
There can be. You need the shininess.
You need the shininess.
You need the shininess. You do.
Glamour is an attitude. Glamour is a way of life.
Glamour is?
Glamour is me, glamour is you, glamour is everywhere.
What is glamour?
Glamour is glamour. Simple.
What is glamour?
You know what glamour is.
What is glamour?
Glamour is beautiful. Glamour is just where it's at right now. And we all need glamour because we're lost souls. And without glamour, we're nobody.
Okay, so it's our own little Pull My Daisy shot in downtown Los Angeles. Just some little notes on that project and how we overcame some limitations. We had a camera that was pretty poor quality, but it didn't suck entirely. It sucked less in black and white. So guess what? We shot it in black and white. A lot of times when you have a very challenging image quality, it's an old punk rock trick, right? Just, amp up that contrast and go black and white. That's a way of at least making a very low grade pixel quality look a lot better, because black and white, you're not using you're not using so many pixels for all those colors. So yeah, and also to know the strengths and weaknesses of your equipment and how they can be used to benefit your project. So another challenge is that we didn't have like a handheld microphone. We only had a lavalier, and that lavalier had a wire that was a specific length. It wasn't very long. It was maybe 4 feet. It really was not long. So we clipped, we're covering an art event. It does have an experimental art vibe. So we clipped it onto a banana, Andy Warhol, right? Velvet Underground. We have that iconography. So we made it work for us. And almost all of our interview shots were very, very close, like within 4 feet. Because literally that was as far as I could get from the camera. I was tethered to the camera or the interviewer was tethered to the camera by 4 feet. So then we had that kind of a shot set up. So again, you always have to find ways around your limitations. You can always make a minus a plus if you just use your ingenuity. And I know you all are very resourceful, because a lot of times, our working class population, we weren't handed things to us. Things were not super easy. The path was not clearly defined and paved and everything. We oftentimes, to get to point A, from point A to point B, we don't follow a straight path. We have to get over obstacles. We have to get under obstacles. We have to make a path where there is none. And so we're naturally innovative. We're naturally resourceful, and you can apply those, that sensibility to your footage and your production projects. So now we're going to transition something that's very important to me. Oh, I also want to it stopped charging.
Pocha's battery went down, so she's gonna
And
step into my chair. Resourcefulness.
Resourcefulness, yes. Okay. I can't fit. Okay, here we are. Okay. So, am I coming through? Can you hear me? Yes? Okay, all right, great. Okay, so now I'm here. My charging cord went out, and of course, so it wasn't charging right. Let's see here. Okay, so, oh yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to some of the people in that last video. Like I said, it was kind of our Pull My Daisy. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the short film. I'll put it in the description of this, of the archived version of the video. Pull My Daisy was shot in San Francisco by by some filmmakers that were working with the beatnik poets. So almost everybody in Pull My Daisy is like a major artist. Allen Ginsberg, William Burroughs, all these amazing, incredible artists were a part of that production. And so in this last little video, we shot in Gronk's building, the painter Gronk's building. So you see Gronk in the video. You have a lot of real big Los Angeles art luminaries, from Alfredo de Batuque, you have Kenan Valdez, and then from Orange County, Rigo Maldonado, of course, a shout out to Rigo. We have Adrian Rivas, who's a very prominent gallerist. Timoy, who's a wonderful female graffiti artist. Raul Baltazar, a very gifted performance artist. Sandra de la Losa, Roxy, a big producer, Fran Hernandez now, who has been making some amazing films. All these great people. They're all in the credits of the piece, so you can, look them up. But it was just such a moment in time. And again, the more you produce your own projects, even if all the conditions aren't perfect, even if you don't have a microphone, even if you don't have the best camera, just document it, get it in the can, because later on you can work out how you're going to edit it, how you're going to make all those pieces fit. But ultimately, just you have to get it in the can. You got to go out there and take the risk and document what's happening around you, and you never know what magic you're going to find. So again, that was something that we got a lot of attention from that Aztec Gold little art film that we did. Now next, I wanted to go into something that I feel very strongly about, and that is the visual language. I know that some of you have gone to film school and you probably learned all this there, but I want all of us to be on the same page. So we're going to talk a little bit about visual language. Some of you might have heard, maybe it's from my time, that if you know 3 chords, you can start a band. That was a very big thing in punk rock, and in grunge rock. And it was, that as an independent person, you didn't have to be produced or have, again, all of the equipment. If you just knew 3 chords, you could start a band. So in my philosophy, if you know 5 shots, you can make a movie. So I'm going to show you what the 5 visual basic shots of cinema language are. I'm going to start with this, and then if you could, and then we'll go into, okay. And then we're going to, after this little simple thing on the shots, we're going to go into a little presentation on lighting, okay, so that you can kind of keep that in mind. Okay, so first, and the 5 shots are extreme long shot, medium shot, close-up, and an extreme close-up. That's it. Those are all the shots. So I'm going to give you a little example here. We're going to go very low tech. Extreme long shot. That's where, let me see if I can put it up. Can I see? Okay, here it is. Extreme long shot is like a landscape shot. It's an establishing shot. A lot of times it's called establishing shot because this is where you set the tone of your piece. People are going to notice what's the landscape? What's the landscape? What time of day? Is it day or night? Are we outdoors? Are we indoors? What's the house? In telenovelas, usually the establishing shot is a long shot. It's usually a shot of the house where the drama is taking place. Or in a scary movie, it could be the forest. Or in a science fiction film, it'll be outer space where you see the big spaceships engaging in battle. Usually stories start with a long shot because so much information can be transferred about the world that your story takes place in an establishing or a long shot.
Okay, next shot number 2 is sorry, that was an extreme long shot. This is a long shot, also called a full shot. Okay, so a full shot is, you can see all the way from the top of someone's head all the way down to the bottom of their feet. Their entire figure is inside of the frame. That's a long shot. That's sometimes used after your establishing shot, after your extreme long shot. You're introducing your character. Sometimes it'll go and it'll, hey, somebody walked on the scene. Who are they? Here they are in a long shot. This could also be used, when people are, walking through a landscape, whatever. So that's a long shot. Then we have a medium shot. A medium shot, this is usually, it cuts off a little bit below the waist at the hip. I kind of made it a little too close here. But a medium shot, again, when you're getting to know your characters, a lot of times when you have 2 characters, a 2 shot, where you have 2 people talking to each other, that's usually a medium shot. It usually cuts off at the hip or around the waist area. So that's medium shot. Then we have close-up. Okay, our 4th shot is a close-up. Close-up is really focusing on the face. So when you're introducing your character, or you're having like a back and forth, 2 people are having a conversation, and you're moving from one character to the other character. Hi, how are you doing? Oh, hey, here I am. That's usually a close-up, and you get into over the shoulders and things like that. But usually, now on social media, when you're shooting things, like a PSA, or you're shooting something that's going to live on Facebook or TikTok, or I think Instagram, when you want people to connect with your characters or your story on a very small, tiny format, like it is on a telephone, where all the videos, you see them in a little tiny format, they're little snapshots. Videos is really a close-up format. You want to use close-ups. You want to have close-ups of like your product, or close-ups of your characters. Close-up details really, really shine on video. It really is a close-up medium. In film, when you see it on a 30-foot screen, that's when you can really play with the landscape. Film, or when it's going to be projected big, you can have a lot of fun, and you have high quality, high pixel quality, high image quality. That's really a beautiful way to go. But again, if you have limited image quality, and you're gonna mainly be viewed small, you really want to stick around with your close-ups, your medium shots, and the 5th shot, extreme close-up. That's when you see that a lot in horror films, and art films, where we're getting into parts of faces, real close-ups of vegetation or nature. Spaghetti westerns, where they come in and boom, 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 they're right in the eyes. They really add a sense of energy and really pump up your visual sequences. So using these 5 shots, all 5, extreme long shot, medium shot, close up, and then we have extreme close up. Those 5 shots in different combinations are going to give you very strong stories. So you can combine them. You can have like a medium long shot, you can have a medium close up, but that's kind of like the 5 basics. I want you to kind of start to think about, when you communicate to other people, you're communicating your idea. I want this story, you're telling your cameraman, maybe you're doing a news story, and you want to tell your cameraman, hey, I want you to get a medium shot of these 2 people. I want you to get a close-up of that book. This is the vocabulary you want to communicate with your other video and film professionals with, okay? It's good, and it's very clear. Now I want to show, Victor, I want to show a video now that some of you might be familiar with. It's Eisenstein's Odessa Steppe sequence from his film, The Battleship Potemkin. Now, Eisenstein is a Russian filmmaker who came about, he was really influenced by, he was actually influenced by a woman who was named, what's her name again? I'm blanking out. Guy Blache, right?
Yeah,
Guy Blache, Alice Guy Blache, yes. She is a French filmmaker who was actually from Chile. and she was very influential in cinema, in early cinema, and actually inspired a lot of people like Eisenstein, Hitchcock, Orson Welles, all the early filmmakers, Méliès, they all were influenced by this woman from Chile who was making films in France in the early days of cinema. And there's a wonderful documentary about her that that we screened at our most recent festival. I'll go ahead and put a link to that trailer because it's really a fabulous film, and you will learn a lot about cinema history by studying the life of Alice Guy Blaché. So here's the Odessa step sequence. So all I need to do is just, okay, so Victor's gonna set it up right there.
We're gonna share the screen too.
Okay, so this, now I want you to see how these 5 different shots, look at the combination, look at how they're combined. In this one sequence, he must go through like 80 shots, seriously. So just look at what kind of energy and visual language is conveyed just with using different kinds of shots juxtaposed against each other.
Okay, I think it's there. And one of Eisenstein's big contributions is a notion of montage, that you put any 2 clips together, you're going to get some kind of meaning. So you're really orchestrating that. Is there sound coming? Okay, so I'm not sure if there's sound on this version, but just watch visually. Just focus on the visuals.
Yeah. So even if there's no sound, you can see these long, extreme long shot. You know, kind of a medium long shot, medium shot, extreme long shot. Kind of a medium close up. You know, medium shot, long shot, extreme long shot. All right. Okay.
Did we stop sharing or?
I think it's
Okay, we're stop sharing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the Odessa Steps. That's, I think, one of the greatest edited sequences in cinema history. And again, if you study the life of Alice Guy Blaché, we'll put a link to the film. You'll see how she inspired some of that sequence. And so again, you can really see the power of using these different kinds of shots and different combinations. You can, when you have, close up, extreme close up, extreme close up, extreme close up, like when you have the kid getting his hand, stepped on, when you have the woman who's like, she's got shot and she's pressing on her abdomen and the blood is coming across her fingers. Those extreme close-ups, they really convey so much. And this whole sequence, without language, without visual language.
Is that the last clip we're showing?
Yeah. Yeah, that is. And then we're going to the presentation.
Okay.
To the
And if I could add a couple of things about Eisenstein, because I was a big fan in my early days, is that Eisenstein is working during a revolutionary time in Russia. I'll just talk from here, and so revolutionary ideas are what he's communicating. It was before it was the Soviet system; it was still the Bolshevik system. So he's very idealist. He went to Mexico. He was inspired by the muralists. He inspired the muralists and the filmmakers of the 30s and 40s. So there's a really direct connection. But the ability to tell a story that communicates these higher principles using emotion, using juxtaposition, using symbolism, like where the woman's hands not just bleeding, it's bleeding over a belt buckle that has like a symbol of I don't know, it looked like
it's a swan.
Well, there was like this, it may be a swan, or I didn't see it clearly, but that's all very important in how you tell a story, managing emotion. Eisenstein knew that people responded to emotion more than they did facts. And that's a real important message in propaganda. And Trump uses it nowadays. It doesn't matter the facts, it's how you make people feel. You can tell stories in a way that manages how people respond based on the mood and feeling that you create with the images. So it's not just about the facts, which maybe on your side are important, but people are visually going to really respond to the impact of the images they use, how you tell them, the juxtaposition, the contrast, and the sequence.
Yes, this is true. So again, another film that Eisenstein did that you might want to look at is it Viva Mexico?
Yeah.
Viva Mexico, and there might be sequences of that on YouTube. Viva Mexico was inspired by the Mexican muralists, so you'll see a lot of that imagery that you see in Diego Rivera mural or Tamayo mural, Siqueiros mural. You'll see it in Eisenstein's film and in his visual language. You'll see again his mastery of the 5 shots and how he applied them to Aztec pyramids and the faces of indigenous people in Mexico in the 1930s. He was exiled from Russia after that little Battleship Potemkin film. The people in power did not find him a valuable team player. He depicted the nation's military in a very brutal way. And again, the visual juxtaposition of even the way he structured the people versus the military. Military is in very rigid lines moving across the screen. The people are not in rigid and very organic shapes moving across. And the faces, the landscape of faces, of Eisenstein's faces, are really amazing. So again, I recommend Viva Mexico. We'll put a link on the description of the archived version of this class. So now you kind of know a little bit about the shots, and you can start to see how these shots play out in different genres. Like, news is mainly close-up, right? Head and shoulders. Horror, lot of extreme close-ups, right? Nature documentaries in general, there's a lot of establishing shots, a lot of full shots, long shots, medium shots. So and then close-ups for the interviews. So each genre uses a different combination of these basic shots in its visual language. And And now you'll know to start to, look for them. A fun exercise I like to recommend to my students is to watch television with the sound off. So, and then flip through the channels. So that's a way you can start to train your eye to recognize not just the different actual shots used, but the speed, the timing, and then you'll start to develop a sensibility for those genres and what the visual timing is, what the visual structure is. You'll start to see that in the films and the different shows if you watch it with the sound off, and again flip through the channels, and you'll start to notice those things. So now we're going to go on to our next topic and our last big topic of the day, which is lighting.
But we got another presentation after this.
Oh, okay, we've got another presentation after this. Sorry, my last presentation here in this will be lighting, because besides knowing the 5 shots, it's important that people can see them, right? Because video and filmmaking, they're a visual medium. They use light to illuminate the subject, right, and convey it. And if you are shooting with no light at all and people can't see your subject, they're not going to be able to know what the story is about. They might not be able to connect with your main character, because part of connecting with a human being, right, like they say, the eyes are the window to the soul. You have to make sure that people can see their eyes, right? That people can, that's why people sometimes have a little light that's known as an eye light that they shoot, right? Kind of to illuminate that eye socket. Sometimes it can be, dark and impede the audience connection with the subject. So lighting design is very important. So I'm going to talk about different kinds of light, the difference between natural light and artificial light, and tools that you can use to make sure that your videos always look good. Because if you have good light, a crappy camera will look a lot better. A lower grade phone, camera capable. If you have a lot of light and you use light the right way, you can really take good pictures with even the most rudimentary equipment. So we're going to get into this PowerPoint presentation I have here, and I think it's loaded now. Okay, great. There you go.
Full screen? No, here we go.
Okay. Okay, so lighting. Okay, so the difference, I just have to push the arrows, right, to go to the next one. Okay, so the difference between light, as I said before, we have a difference between lighting, whether it's natural or studio. So I have an example here at the bottom. We have Kathy Jurado from Classic Western, a Mexican actress. She's on the left. That's an example of studio lighting, which is where you have electric lights, or, they can be any combination of, powered lights, to actually sculpt and kind of design a certain look on the face and the background of your subject. Now with natural light, you're using the sun, right? So it's probably less sculpted, less contrasty, because for the most part, outdoors, your main source of light is the sun, and you really are limited on any other light source that's going to compete with that sun. It really is strong. So you have to make certain accommodations for it. Okay, natural light. Now within natural light, I recommend when you start to shoot that you use natural light, right? Because before you start investing in artificial lights or a light kit, you want to start to play around and see and train your visual eye with the light that's already around us, and that's the sun. Now there's different qualities of light throughout the day that I want to make you aware of. One of them is the beautiful pearly pink light that is present at sunrise. When the sun is coming up in the horizon, before it gets up atop, when it's at the horizon, the atmosphere of the earth creates a kind of filter, so that light, when it's coming up on the horizon, is filtered through the atmosphere. And there's different factors, whether it's a cloudy day, whether there's a lot of pollution in the air, all these factors are going to add a color to that filter, but the light is going to be softer in the morning. And then after the sun goes, this is noon, after the sun goes down, the light again is going to be softer at sunset. Now, when the light is hitting your subject at sunrise or at sunset, it's hitting from the side. So it really is flattering because it's as if the light is hitting this way. So it illuminates the face, it makes the shadows less harsh, and it looks really pretty. So if you want things to look pretty and nice, like wedding pictures, family gatherings, you want to have little arty, magical, realist, you want to shoot it at sunrise or right after sunset. We'll talk about that. It's called magic hour. So sunrise tend to be pearly pinks, really pretty misty colors. On the West Coast in Southern California, we tend to have a lot of moisture in our air in the morning. So they tend to be very pastel colors at that time. Then at sunset, the colors tend to be more golden, because all throughout the day we've had everybody's cars running, the factories are running, the dust kicks up, right? So at the sunsets tend to be, instead of a pearly color, they tend to be more of a rich red or golden color. So again, if you're shooting, and if you want that naturally, you might just kind of see if it's going to be a nice clear sunset day, or look at the color quality of the sunset. Check your weather report, see how that might affect your sunset color palette. But it is a very pretty light. Again, it's great for shooting portraits. If you're going to shoot like a nice glamour shot of somebody for their professional headshot or something, and you want them to look glamorous and golden, sunset's really beautiful, especially on olive skin. It really enhances a lot of the skin tones, and it's very flattering again when it's coming at that sunset angle. It looks really pretty. So next we have magic hour. Magic hour it's about 40 to 60 minutes right after the disc of the sun as it goes down. Can you guys see me over here? Okay, I'm not sure if I'm appearing as well. Okay, so the disk of the sun, when it disappears beneath the horizon, right after that disk goes under, that's magic hour. That's when it starts. And then the clock is ticking before we have full darkness, right? So that hour after the sun, after the disk, then those golden orange tones tend to drop away, and we're left with a really beautiful violet, periwinkle blue, pearly quality of light that's very magical. So a lot of times dream sequences, or like if you're doing a video and suddenly like the devil appears or a fairy godmother or something, shooting at magic hour, if you have a magician or some magical priestess, that's a really good time to shoot, but you're very limited on what you can shoot because you only have 40 minutes to about an hour, maybe maximum, before full black comes down, you lose your light. But during magic hour, there's actually, I think, a movie called Magic Hour that was shot entirely at magic hour, only during that 1 hour a day so it must have taken them forever. But think about it. It's a concept. You have a film that has a lot of magicalness to it. You have a limited budget. You can't recreate that with lights. You might want to think of scheduling your shoot around that time. You have to have everything ready well ahead of that magic hour, so that when it comes, you're literally waiting for it, and then it comes and bam, you're ready to go. So that's magic hour. Now, when you're outdoors and you're shooting, even if the sun is a little higher, you can do some things to kind of even out the harshness of sunlight. Over here, you can see a very harsh light on a child to the left, on the left of the screen. And then on the far right of the screen, you can see that it's much less harsh. And the reason is because in the middle, you can see that someone, it's hard to see, but someone's holding a big disc, a reflector disc on the child, so that it bounces the light of the sun into the shadow area and kind of evens out the light. So that's something you can do. You can use a bounce to fill in that shadow. And bounces, you don't have to get them at the camera store. At a 99-cent store, which we can't go to now, but maybe on Amazon, you could get like a really cheap sun reflector that you might use in your car, to reflect the sun off of your dashboard. Those sun reflectors, those windshield reflectors, they actually make really good bounce cards. So you can make a bounce card or a bounce, a bounce thing out of that to bounce the light. You can also cover a piece of cardboard, real Rusquatch. You could cover a piece of cardboard with aluminum foil. Make sure you crinkle it up real good and the shiny side is out. And again, you can use aluminum foil as a bounce card. And in a pinch, you can even just use, like even a piece of paper. If this is a manila folder, so it's off-white, but even if you use like a white piece of paper and you actually put it right up so it can actually bounce. I'm getting a little bit of, you can even use that to bounce. So just know it's a white, silver. They also have gold bounce cards so that you can get a little bit of gold tone to that fill light. So it's a really good solution. So here's an example of a reflector being used to bounce light. Again, you determine where the light is coming, and then you turn your bounce card to capture that light, and then you position it so that your subject can also get some of that. So that's how you use a bounce card. Again, these are some examples of contrast. This image is called low contrast because it's kind of flat. You don't have a lot of modeling on the face. It's just, bam, it's kind of washed out. She has very deep eye sockets, so it's not very flattering, but it's just mainly one light. It kind of flattens her up. It looks like it's from the front. Now, to add a little bit of contrast, to make it a little bit more interesting, like a medium contrast, here again, this is the light from the side. Instead of being from the front, the light's coming from the side, and you can see it adds some interest and some sculptural quality to her face on the left-hand side. It's very flattering. Side light, very flattering. If you're shooting fashion shots, weddings, quinceañeras, any kind of thing where you want people to look good, you want them to look glamorous, conventionally attractive, then this is your light. You want medium contrast, you want a side light. High contrast. For your horror films, this is the one you want. This is also the light that appears in the middle of the day. You'll notice it's very harsh, or you could even do it from below, but it's super harsh, very contrasty. So you can see that her eyes are really they just sink in. You lose a lot of that human communication that we had, that sensitivity that we had here. Here she looks really friendly. You can connect with her. Here it's hard to connect with her because we connect through our eyes. So if you can't see a little glimmer, a little shimmer in the eye, a little sparkle, sometimes after you set up your lights, you just want to add one light just so you can get that sparkle, that you can illuminate that eye socket. That's important. So as an example of high contrast. But again, there's very high contrast between maximum white, which is her shirt, and maximum dark. Big difference. That's a high contrast. Okay, so this is an example of studio lighting. Now when we are indoors and we have control of our light, usually at the minimum you want to have at least 3 lights. And then I like to have one just in case I need a dedicated eye light. But usually we have at least 3 lights. And that is the key light, which is your strongest light, your fill light, which is like your second strongest light, and then your backlight, which kind of can, if shot directly at the head, can add a nice little halo, kind of lights up the hair, gives you a little bit of separation between the background. Or you could even do 2 fill lights, do one towards the head or one, and then another one towards your background. Usually it's just one is your backlight and you shoot it at your background, in case there's something written there or there's some texture there, and some of it spills onto the back of the subject, kind of adding a little bit of definition. So those are your 3 basic lights. Again, your key light is your strongest light, that the person, we're kind of looking overhead, right? Overhead down at her subject. So it's like you see their head there, their shoulders, and the key light is the strongest light. If you had a light meter, that's the light that you measure, your key light. You want your key light to be properly exposed, because it, if it's blown out, then most of your, figure is not gonna read. If it's too dark, that's your main illumination. Fill light to even it out, just like we would outdoors with a bounce card. and then your backlight, which could be pointed towards your subject to kind of illuminate them from behind, or also spill onto your background to give you separation. This is an example here of all these elements put together. This is a still from Citizen Kane. So you can see these beautiful sculptural pools of light. You know, in this setup, Citizen Kane was known for using like 20, 30, 50 lights in a scene, and you would never know, you know, because it's so subtle. But you know, there's a very strong light that's pointed at that woman that's appearing through the door, you know, through the door, doorway. You have the two men right in front of her in complete blackness. That's really hard to do, because right next to them, to the right of them, you have a girl that is beautifully illuminated. She has the key light, the fill light, she has an eye light. And because of the skill of the cinematographer, he was able, and she even has a shadow right next to her, yet none of that spills onto those two very dark silhouetted figures right next to her. And then just beyond them, you have a woman with a very, very, very bright light. That's really complicated lighting. And to give you an idea, here are the lights for this scene. Look at that. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a little light down below. You can see Orson Welles is crouching down under the camera. That's just on that side, not to mention all the lights they probably have hanging off the ceiling and, you know, throughout the room. So again, you know, to get this scene, it's not just 3 lights. It's just, you want to have, if you're going to do studio lighting, you want 3 at least at the minimum, but it could get very, very complicated. And if you want to learn the secrets, you know, more secrets about beautiful lighting, you can study cinematographers, our great cinematographers. So since we were just looking at Citizen Kane, we're going to look at the cinematographer there, and also another cinematographer that did a lot of stuff for a lot of different Westerns and Mexican Golden Age films. And that is Gabriel Figueroa. Some of you might be familiar with him. I'm a big fan of his work. I recommend that you look him up on Wikipedia or on IMDb. I'll put some links to some of his films. But Gabriel Figueroa actually started out in Mexico as like a little bit actor. He did like, you know, background, you know, acting. And he kind of observed how crews worked and started to develop that cinematic eye. And then he said, you know, I can do this. So he's actually, I think he apprenticed with, didn't he apprentice with Buñuel? I think he apprenticed with Buñuel. He apprenticed on, he worked, you know, on some films. I think it was Buñuel, the Spanish a filmmaker that he apprenticed with. And then he was often flying. He developed his own visual language. He was known for amazing mastery of light and contrast. I mean, Gabriel Figueroa's Skies, I have an example right there, which is from, you can see it's a almost a full shot of a soldier up against this beautiful sky. He got these skies by using a red filter because he mainly worked in black and white. So using a red filter really made those clouds pop. He learned that from Ansel Adams. That's what Ansel Adams used, a red filter too. So, and then to have that depth of field that you can see that entire almost full body shot of the soldier, and then the guy that he's pointing the gun at all the way down on the bottom right hand part of the frame. That's really hard to do. It's got a close-up and a full shot in the same shot. Plus, they're illuminated. You can see them entirely, and the sky is not overexposed too. It's like, oh my God, how did he do that? He had a whole bag of tricks, and the more you learn about him, the more you see his films. He also shot for John Ford. So a lot of those classic John Ford films, Stagecoach, you know, they were shot by a Mexican, by Gabriel Figueroa. So he did many modern films. What was one of his later films, Vic?
I can't remember, but I mean, he shot most of those classic Golden Age of Mexican films.
He did shoot a lot of those Mexican Golden Age films, but I know he worked all the way until like his death pretty much. He was shooting Hollywood films in America all the way up to the end. So he's definitely someone that I would recommend if you want to study the craft of light and cinematography. Another person, we're using examples from Citizen Kane, because Citizen Kane is one of those films that is considered one of the greatest films ever produced, and it certainly looks beautiful. It's got some of the most gorgeous cinematography. And the man that made that happen is Greg Toland. So that's another cinematographer you might want to look up. Look up the films he did and, you know, how he got his sensibilities, training, his technique. It's another real master that I would recommend. And with that, I think we've concluded our lighting lesson. So I will turn it now back to Mr. Payan. Oh, but first, does anyone have any questions? Nope. Okay. So, ready to, okay, so turn it back to Mr. Payan.
You can, we got enough juice on your battery. Oops, sorry. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Hey, everybody. I don't know if you can see me. I'm going to get off shared screen here.
Hope you like that.
Yeah. Hope you liked it. Very important. We're film nuts, film geeks, and you know, it's important as you go into your career that you follow your passion and whatever you bring to the, some people it's sports, some people it's technology, some people it's cars and music, and that really excites you. And if you can, you know, like we're talking about making money at what you do, if you can make money while you learn, but doing something you love, it's a double bonus. You know, a lot of people get into situations where, like, if you hate action films and then you're working in action films, you're not going to be very happy. But if you like romantic comedies and you're working in romantic comedies, you're going to learn technique and timing and acting direction, all this stuff just by being there. So, okay, so I'm going to give a presentation now also. We're going to do a little app focus right now. Let me see if I can close out of this presentation here and open mine. And we're going to talk about iMovie today. We don't have time to really go into depth, but I'm just going to give you some key concepts. You can learn these apps through a lot of tutorials online, and they also, these ideas also transfer into any other editing, you know, kind of experience you're in. So if you've got a, you know, an Android phone, there's some great Android video editors out there, Windows video editors, free ones. You can use these same concepts. So let me see if I can share the screen, and we'll zip through here also. Hold on a sec, where's that? Okay, hold on a sec. Okay. So, are you all seeing the full screen now? Okay. So, and I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsors, the Center for Cultural Innovations, Investing in Tomorrow Grant, the California Arts Council, and Grand Central Arts Center, where we were meeting our first time, but they closed down due to coronavirus. So we're meeting digitally now. And that's us right there, who you're familiar with. Okay, so iMovie is great because it's available as an app or as a desktop version for free, and it was revolutionary when it came out. And there's a lot that you can do with it very easily. The version for the phone is very, you know, kind of just, you can use it with your fingers, very intuitive. And the one with the computer, it's very intuitive, but it gives you, you know, some more features and whatnot, and visual space to play with your clips and whatnot. So some key things to know about iMovie is that it offers templates. And templates are your friend, because what it is it will set like a certain style. Like if you look at them on your, we'll show them later, we'll talk about them. You can edit and trim video clips, and you can have edit audio tracks. You can do narration, you can do music. You can call all this stuff up from your phone. So you don't have to be loading stuff from all over the place. So if you have a song on your phone, you can attach it right there. Or if you want to record narration straight from your phone, you can do that too. You can use photos from your photo library, subtitles, transitions. You can do green screen within the app, and also it has backgrounds for you, or you can load up your own background as a photo and go from there. And you can export and share it either to a file. So if you need to edit it further, or you need a physical file, full res, you can do that. And it also lets you upload to different services, which is really convenient. If you're your phone, you want to upload to Vimeo, you want to upload to Facebook or YouTube, you can do that straight from the app, and a lot of these other apps also. So basically, so here's some first things when you look at, when you open, this is the desktop version we're looking at, because like I said, it gives you more real estate than the phone screen, but the concepts are the same. So it starts out with themes. So a theme is like, what are you doing? Are you doing like a photo album, a comic book, a newscast, a sports? So these are really useful in the sense of, like, let's say we were talking about citizen journalism. You know, you're doing a little news piece. You do that, and then it will just set up all the graphics, and it has some motion graphics of its own where the titles are supposed to go, and you just drop in your clips. And a lot of these also have preset music. So this one is going to have newscast kind of music, which is like dun, 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 you know. So that's good. This other one, movie trailers, is really fun because they are set up to mimic styles of movies, genres of movies. And they're really fun to play with because, like, say you want to do a romantic comedy, film noir, you just shoot, it gives you icons that say what kind of shot it needs. Like the Senator was saying, you know, we need a close-up here, we need a 2-shot here, we need a long shot there. So you can pre-assemble them, and it's really fun to play as you're doing exercise to go, oh, I want to make a documentary trailer, and then you just follow and you create shots according to their kind of storyboard, and you drop them in, and it looks like $1 million. So if you want a really good like ego boost, use these templates to just make trailers, and music is in them already. They are, like it says here, your best friend. And also, if you're doing stuff for work, which I hope you guys will be doing, where you become the go-to person to do video, these are easy too. It's because there's somebody that just needs something quick. We need a video for the staff. We need something to send out on the internet. You can have fun with templates. So the controls, minimize this over here. Okay, so the controls on the left, if you see this here microphone, that's for recording narration. So you can import your clips, you can assemble them, you can trim them. And then if you have a microphone on your computer, you can record narration like as you watch it. Like, it's very simple, very easy to use. And it's a tool that's, you know, you want to know. This here is for cropping. You can actually crop the video, back to what you were talking about, vertical and horizontal. You crop the video. If you want to punch in, like zoom into a little section of it, or change the aspect ratio, this is where you do that. Just click a button and a little square comes up, and then you can modify the square as you want. This here, it goes for your music library, your photos, titles, transitions, and background. So we'll go into those in a second here. And the cool thing about this is that it accesses the files on your phone, on your computer, within the app. So you click the little music icon, and your music library comes up. I'm a big Los Lobos fan, so I would, you know, this is, I would like click a song here, and it would put that in the background of the video. You can trim it. You can raise and lower the audio levels. It tells you where you're at, so you know if you're peaking. If it gets in the red, it's in stereo, which is really cool. If you have two mic sources, one on the left and the right. And then here is for photos. It connects to your photo library. I don't have anything in the photo library on this computer, so nothing came up. But on your phone, this is going to be full because you take photos with your phone all the time. So you can film and then shoot a bunch of stills and then incorporate those right into your video without having to change equipment, change setups, change anything. It's just all right there together, really handy to use. These, you can't really see them up close, but these are your titles. And it sets you kind of default fonts and sizes. You can change the colors. Some of these that scroll, you can change the speed. You've got drift, you've got zoom. So these are really, really cool and add a lot of production value and quality to your projects. Lower thirds are what you're going to mostly be using if you're doing interviews, and it'll be like, you know, Joe Schmo, you know, man on the street, you know, just very simple setup, like documentary or newscasts, but really simple. Click a button, you can put those in there, drop them in, change the duration of them, all within the app. Transitions are what you use between two shots. So you have your clips, you arrange them in order, you trim them to size, and then you drop these little guys in between them, And you're familiar with transitions. Mostly we use dissolve, we use cut, which is a transition, and then we use, what do you call it? Wipe, which is the one that goes sideways. But you have spin, circle, it's iris, mosaic. You have a lot of different tools. I think there's like 30 of them to really play with, fade to black, that are all at your fingertips. And you just kind of drop them as little squares between the two clips, and they plop right in, and then you can change the settings, the duration, etc. And those are in the app. And then if you do green screen, which you can also do within the app, it gives you the chance to do backgrounds. So they have maps, they have a whole bunch of maps. They have still background colors. I think like curtain and underwater and blobs, I think they're motion graphics. So this looks like you're underwater, which is kind of fun to have and play with. But generally you can have just a single color, like if you're doing webcasts or instructional videos or whatever, and you don't want something in your background, you know, you have a blanket back there or a wall, you can key out for that, you know, put in something nice. You can also upload your own photos and use them from your library. So like in the case of Zoom, it's got the Golden Gate Bridge there. You can do the same thing with yours. So these are the animatics that you see when you use the templates. And this also corresponds to kind of what Pocha was saying about shot types. So when you're assembling, I'm not sure, I haven't used it, but I think that this allows you to export as a storyboard as well. But if not, as you're visualizing your piece, and say you're assembling it before you shoot it, you want to kind of do a template to make it, you know, a pre-assemble, you can decide what kind of shots you want as a reminder to yourself. But generally you do this in storyboards on paper before you shoot. You can export to different sizes and qualities depending on what your final end result medium is. Computers generally higher quality. There's more compression in these, so you get smaller file sizes. If you saw the videos that we showed you of our early work, that was done, you know, 15 years ago with equipment that was available at the time. So hard drive space was super expensive. Internet speed was super slow. So you had to export your clips to what your technology could handle. Now you can do 1080p, full quality, you know, MP4 compressed videos, and they'll upload in, you know, minutes, as opposed to like the one that you saw that we did with Aztec Gold probably took like 2 hours to upload, even at that resolution. And here's a little shot of the share screen where you can share to YouTube, you can share to Facebook. I don't know what CNN iReport is, but I'm guessing that's for citizen journalism. You can do a full QuickTime movie, and you can even do XML, which is kind of like a database file that you can import to an editor like Final Cut, that if you have your clips in the same folder, it will read them and kind of translate them into the edit points and format of that system. So it's Final Cut, XML. You can go to iDVD, which people aren't really burning to DVD anymore, but that's what that was for. Goes straight into the other apps. Integration, like I said earlier, is what really is cool about the Apple products, and not just iMovie. You can integrate with GarageBand, and I think if I'm right, GarageBand also has a function where you can kind of score video. Like you can have a video clip, and then you're building your audio and music tracks while you're watching your video, so that it's synced, you know, according to what you're doing. So that's kind of the quick show of for iMovie. On Android, I'm not too familiar, but as I was looking to see what resources were available, I was very impressed with a couple of programs. The links that I sent you, I think KineMaster was one of them, and you know, some really powerful tools that you can use. Are there any? So that was really quick on iMovie. So I hope it wasn't too fast. Do you have any questions so far about iMovie or online editing, or digital editing, I should say? Nobody? Have you all used it before? So it's okay. And to be honest, I'm very impressed with how easy and intuitive it is to use. especially on the phone. And like I said, if you're going to be making videos and you want to be really useful, work is a great place to put your skills to the fore. I know that I worked at a museum, and it was always, oh, we need someone to shoot a behind the scenes thing. We need someone to do a tour of the new exhibit. We need someone to videotape this interview that the director is doing, and just we need stills or whatever documentation. It's so easy to just have your phone, and I'm going to shoot 30 seconds here. I'm going to take 10 photos. I'm going to shoot 40 seconds. I'm going to do an exit interview. And then from your phone to be able to edit all that together. Something that it used to be, you know, we always talk about the old days, you used to film it in one format, transfer it to another format, take it to another piece of equipment. If you wanted to do titles, it's yet another piece of equipment. If you want to do special effects, whatever, all that is in your phone. We haven't even gotten into explosions and dinosaurs and spaceships and all that stuff that you could use with all these other apps. But integration is the key to being more successful. And then transferring this with the conventions of Instagram or Facebook or your own Vimeo page. But the instantaneous nature of it is really what it's about. I think that's the end of our presentation. And we really, want to encourage you guys to play with this. Next week, we're going to have a really special guest, Sean Glumase, I think is how to pronounce his last name, who's going to talk about Adobe Creative Cloud and Adobe Apps, another suite that is really worth getting to know, because especially if you're students, it's so affordable, and the firepower that you get with that is unprecedented, even 5 years ago. And they have some new tools. They have Adobe Premiere Rush, which is meant to be used with your phones and for digital export. They have Adobe Spark, which is made for web graphics, and they can do animations and things like that. Adobe Creative Cloud also has like Adobe Animate, where you can use your webcam, you can build avatars, and you use your webcam, and then it maps you. And then as you're talking and doing something live, it is translating that to your avatar. So I think you can even live stream it, I'm not sure, but you can record it as your avatar. So your avatar would be doing the same motions that I'm doing, the same mouth movements, the same eyebrow movements. So really important, and really excited that he's going to be giving away a 1-year subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud. His group does certification training for Adobe products. So if you're interested in that, that's another way to get work in this field, to get certification. And Adobe provides you with so many resources and tools to be your own, production company, that it's really, really worth it to learn those tools. If you know somebody that has it, or if they're a student, try to get time on it, because the computers are powerful enough to use it. And there's so many great programs out there. As a producer, probably the most important suite of tools that you have are like Microsoft Office or some kind of Office program, word processor, spreadsheet, and some kind of presentation software. That's what you're going to need to use to impress people, make money, put in grants, submit budgets to potential funders and investors. So if you have those, that's really get to know Excel, really get to know how to write, what to write, and it's about getting those meetings. And like there's the expression in Hollywood, let's do lunch. It's about getting together, having the FaceTime, having that those conversations where it leads to the next step. What's the next step? How do we get to the next step? Very important question to ask in these meetings. But if you have your budget or you have your presentation, that you can say, let me email you this, they can share it to 100 other people. So you don't have to print it. It doesn't have to be on fancy paper. It doesn't have to be on a high-end, format like Sandra was talking about. You'd have to export them to VHS or DVD or Blu-ray. Now you just send a link and you're golden. And back to what I was talking about last week about South Park, where they made their video, put it out on tape, and then sent tapes all, just left them everywhere around Hollywood. Your link does that. So back to what Arlette was asking about the website, you want to make sure you have a presence where it can be seen. Own your work, be proud of your work. It's always going to get better, but if nobody sees it, they're not going to know you for what you do. Our Aztec Gold work, because it was filmed, the early stuff was not that high quality, but the content was good. So we were able to get projects and build new projects based on the strengths of what we did well, and then build the team and build the equipment to what we really want it to be. But as you're younger, as you're starting out, I would say the biggest mistake people make is they're too critical and they over censor themselves. Just get it out there, do it, get it out there, and own it. And like I said before, the more achievable the goal, the happier you're going to be about it, the more excited you're going to be to do the next one. But everything is a learning experience, and you're going to learn new techniques. You're going to learn how to use your equipment better. And like I said, with your phone, an app like Filmic Pro will teach you the skills you need to function on a DSLR or a bigger camera. The light handle's the same, the sound handle's the same, all those principles apply. So when you do get your hand on an equipment, you'll know how to use it, because you'll say, oh, well, this is how I do it here. How do I do it here? What controls do I use, instead of, well, do I need to work with lighting differently? I'm saying that those skills are very transferable, but get your experience now. Any questions now? Okay, I'm going to type some things in the chat box here, again, to keep you guys getting out into the real world. I'm a slow typist here. So I want to just keep putting out a plug for the National Association for Latino Independent Producers, because we were there when they started, but they are such a powerhouse organization right now for advocacy for jobs. Did it come out? I'm showing this not coming out. Oh, wait, hold on. The chat's not showing up. Oh, here we go. Everyone in meeting. Okay, perfect. There you go. National Association of Latino Independent Producers. Check out their site. They have a lot of professional development programs. And they're not doing, they had a big conference coming up, and I was going to suggest that you try to volunteer there, because that is an amazing group of people that you're going to connect with. Okay, Robert Rodriguez's book, Rebel Without a Crew, is another one I really encourage you guys to look at. You can get it new for like $11, or you can, get it used for less. And I'm going to call up, I think here's a video of it, his 10-minute film school, which he has in the book. He kind of maps out, like, this is my 10-minute film school, but then he did a video. And I'm going to show that to you guys right now, so that you get a sense of, again, this is a person, he did the video a little later, but this is a person who is in love with what he's doing, and he wants to share to other people. He wants to inspire people like himself. And back when he was starting, there weren't a lot of people like him. There really, really, really weren't. The opportunities weren't there. The demographics weren't there. The box office wasn't there. All kinds of reasons that Hollywood will tell you why they weren't doing it. He basically said, I don't care. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have my fun and my work, and I'm going to learn it and get it out there. And then he's become a legend, a huge figure. But this was near the beginning. So I'm going to share that with you guys. So, and I'll give you a link later, but I really want you guys to see it while we're here.
Robert Rodriguez made his first film, El Mariachi, when he was 23, for a legendary $7,000. Last year, he remade it for $7 million as Desperado with Antonio Banderas. This vampire action flick from dusk till dawn, written by and starring Quentin Tarantino. In May, Rodriguez is one of the hottest young directors in Hollywood. certainly the cheekiest, agreed to give us an exclusive high-energy masterclass on how to make your first film on virtually nothing.
Morning, class. Now, a famous filmmaker a while back said something about everything you need to know about film, you can learn in about a week. He was being generous. You can learn it in 10 minutes. Set your watches. We'll be out of here in 10, kids. Okay, so you want to be a filmmaker? Yes. Wrong. You are a filmmaker. The moment you think about that you want to be a filmmaker, you're that. Make yourself a business card that says you're a filmmaker, pass them out to your friends. As soon as you get that over with and you got it in your mind that you're one, you'll be one. You'll start thinking like one. Don't dream about being a filmmaker. You are a filmmaker. Now let's get down to business.
Let's play.
What you need to learn was that being creative is not enough in this business. You have to become technical. Creative people are born creative. You're lucky. Technical people, however, can never be creative. It's something you'll never get. You can't buy it, find it, study it. You're born with it. Too many creative people don't want to learn how to be technical. So what happens? They become dependent on technical people. Become technical. You can learn that. If you're creative and technical, you're unstoppable. Experience. Do you have experience in movies? You do, right. You've watched movies. Now you need to have movie experience. You're not going to learn from just watching movies. You'll learn some things. You'll learn more picking up a camera by making your own films, your own mistakes. Mistakes don't have to be mistakes. Everything is subjective. A mistake to one person is actually a piece of art to someone else. Hide behind that. Tell everyone it's art. You can get away with a lot. Start with a screenplay. Does anyone here know how to write? No. Good. Everyone else writes the same way. Start writing your way. That makes you unique. You can take writing classes, that's good, but don't bother to go to film school or you'll be making films like everyone else. We want to see new films. How do you write a script? Well, you obviously don't have a lot of money or you wouldn't be in my class. So you want to make a movie? You don't want to spend a lot. You're going to come up with problems every day on your set. You can get rid of the problem one or two ways. You can do it creatively or you can wash it away with a money hose. You have no money, you got no hose. So let's make a screenplay for a movie that you can actually make without having to make your parents poor. Let's make a cheap movie. How do you make a cheap movie? Look around you. What do you have around you? Take stock in what you have. Your father owns a liquor store. Make a movie about a liquor store. You have a dog? Make a movie about your dog. Your mom works in a nursing home. Make a movie about a nursing home. When I did El Mariachi, I had a turtle, I had a guitar case, I had a small town, and I said, well, I'll make a movie around that.
Cuando caminaba me acercaba una tortuga.
How do you visualize a movie? On storyboards. You can do that. You can pre-visualize your movie and draw them out. What you should really do, though, is just make a blank screen for yourself and sit there and watch your movie. Close your eyes and stare at this. Imagine a screen, imagine your movie. Shot for shot, cut for cut. Sit there, close your eyes, and get rid of everybody, get rid of all the thoughts in your head except your movie and watch your movie. Is it too slow? Is it too fast? Is it funny? Does it make sense? Watch it, and then write down what you see. Write down the shots that you see, and then just go get those shots. Equipment. Okay, let's go to equipment. The worse the better. You don't want anything too fancy. Remember, this is your first movie. You're not Spielberg yet. I used this one for El Mariachi. Almost the same one. This is a 16M. I used a 16S, but this is exactly what I had. It helped me move fast because it was light. It was very noisy, so I had to do the sound in a wacky way. But this thing here would cost you about $2,000. Don't spend that kind of money. Find some monkey who owns one. I found somebody who had one of these sitting around. He wasn't using it. I borrowed it from him. I shot my own movie. Look, this is a nice stand. It's a very solid stand. You know what's going to happen? The camera's going to stay on the stand. You're going to just keep it there because it's so nice. Meaning your movie's going to look stiff. Take it off of there, sit in a wheelchair, push yourself around, get some energy in your film. That's the great thing about first films is they have so much life and so much energy. Big productions can't even duplicate that energy because they've got too good a stand. They've got too much crew and everything's really smooth and polished and it's lifeless. Add life to your film by getting rid of the fancy stuff. Too good, too heavy, too good. Just use your hands. Better. Here's a light meter. This isn't the right one. I broke my other one. This is a spot meter. That's okay, but it's too fancy. You just need one with a little white dome on it. Point it to your subject, read the light, look at the number on your light meter. Remember, the light meter is your friend. Feed that into the lens and the iris, and then you're set. You can start shooting. Don't overlight. The mariachi, I had 2 lights. Regular light bulbs. They were balanced for indoor film, so it looked fine. In fact, everyone said the lighting looked moody because there was very little light. So again, your mistakes, your shortcomings, suddenly becomes artistic expression. Finally, post-production. When you finish shooting your movie, what do? These are your friends, my friends. Video editing systems, computer editing systems, anything like that. It's immediate, it's easy, it's cheap. Do not cut on film. Film is your enemy. You may be shooting on film, but don't cut on film. If any of you want to cut on film, get out of my class right now. Go spend $20,000 on a real film school and do that. You'll never get a job, believe me. Everything's on computers or video these days. Film is slow, film is expensive, film is not creative. Film takes too long. Cut on tape, that's what I did. I shot mariachi for nothing. I edited on video. I had a 3/4-inch master that looked beautiful because the negative was transferred right to tape. There was no middleman. So it looked like 35 millimeter, clean, pristine, colorful. I made VHS copies of this, sent them out all over Hollywood. I never made a film print. Waste of money. You have to string them up, they get worn out, they're expensive. They're copies of your negative. You don't want that. You don't want copies of your negative. You want your negative on tape, where people can duplicate it and watch it and get you work. Okay, so you've made your movie, you've cut it, you've got it out, people want you. What do? First thing you want to do is get an agent right away. Hollywood is full of sharks. You need a shark working for you. These guys go and they get you the best deals, they get you the best prices, they get you the best movies. What you've learned is something no one else has, how to make a movie dirt cheap. No one else in Hollywood knows how to do that. You guys can make them cheap, you guys can make them better, don't get swallowed in the system. Take advantage of your position. Now, I make movies that are still low budget, but they look like big budget movies because I learned the techniques that I just showed you today. I don't have all day. I've got to go back and do my own films. So I hope you guys learned something today. I hope you grab some of these cameras and go shoot something of your own. I hope you write down the ideas that you have, the dreams that you have. Stop aspiring, start doing, get to it. See you in Hollywood. Be scary.
Okay, so be scary. That's Robert Rodriguez's advice there. Were you able to hear it the second time? Okay.
Ever wish you could pick up a guitar and play your favorite songs? Welcome to Fender Play.
It's an ad for Fender Play.
The online learning platform that...
All right. Okay, so I actually interviewed Robert Rodriguez after El Mariachi came out, and I was talking to him, and I was really excited about his editing. I was like, oh my God, your editing's so energetic and so wonderful. He goes, and he kind of stopped me. He's like, no. What do you mean? He said, the reason it's like that is because I had a camera and a sound recorder that were not synced, and I would lose synchronization from the image and the sound like every 3 seconds. So I had to edit my film so that I could keep the vocals synchronized and have all these shots between there, because otherwise it would have been totally out of whack. So what, again, like you were saying, what became to me a really valuable stylistic component was to him born out of necessity. And when you look at Rodriguez as a filmmaker and his films, it's all about style, attitude, energy, action, and most importantly, in his case, confidence. He's not, you look at his films, there's no doubt anywhere. There's no introspection. It's all like explosions and full on ahead, fast cuts. Like you saw in the images that he had in the back of his presentation, that's him. But his advice is really, really useful. To fall in love with producing and making media content your own work, it's important to fall in love with film. And since we're all kind of in place, this is a perfect time. I know a lot of you have Netflix or Amazon Prime or etc., but I want to let you guys know about another channel that you guys should really get. And there's a link right there. It's a Criterion channel. It's about, you got it? It's about $11 a month. I think it's a 3-day free trial, but unlike the other ones that are looking at popular film, this is a real like film cultural collection. So you're going to have films from all over the world, from the last 120 years or so. They do special spotlights. They do spotlights on women filmmakers. They've got a spotlight on German Expressionism. They have a spotlight on Peter Bogdanovich. So if you're passionate about film or you want to discover film, you say, I've read about Fellini. I want to watch some Fellini movies, or some of the French New Wave, or India, or Italian films, neorealism. This is your one-stop shop to get inspired. So I could send you a list of films that are really influential to us. They're all there right now, from the 20s to the present. Whatever you're passionate about, chances are whatever film you're going to read about is going to be on the Criterion channel. So at the very least, I guess I should make it an assignment in the class, sign up for the free trial and just explore, and then encourage you to keep it for at least 1 month, because you know, hopefully you're going to find stuff that you really, really like. I can make some recommendations, like I said, you know, Bicycle Thieves. What else was there that I saw? Like German Expressionism, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Metropolis, French films from the 70s and 80s, American films from the 70s, all there in one place. And since you ain't going anywhere this week, I highly recommend you guys check it out. And a lot of Spanish language film. There's Iranian film. They talked about, what do you call it? To Gabriel Figueroa. Let me type in Gabriel Figueroa and see what films come up. John Ford, what films does he have there? I'd like to see something. And all filmmakers are on this creative journey. So if you have a chance to see somebody's work from beginning to end, what used to be retrospectives in museums and art houses, you can now do it in your home. F.W. Murnau. Oh, they've got 5 films from them. Let me watch them all in order, the order that he made them. You know, then Allison Anders, I think she's got stuff in there. Border Radio's in there. You know, you can be on that creative journey with them, but there's nothing like experiencing a film as it responds to the moment that you're in. So as you're watching filmmakers too, you can kind of look at the year it was made, look what they're saying at that time, and see how that changes with technology, with cultural expression, with where they are in life. But I highly, highly recommend the Criterion channel. Okay, so your projects. Let's do a check-in on the projects that you're working on. I think we've still got most of the people here. I think we got most of the people here. So let's start with Salvador. Tell us about your project again. If you're sticking with it, where you are on that, where you want to be with that.
Well, on my project that I initially shared, I'm just kind of outlining ideas for the moment, just just kind of like the question that I would ask like musicians, stuff like that, and just kind of lead their information, kind of tell the story itself, you know. So kind of just outlining stuff. During the week, I was just playing around with Filmic Pro, and I was just, like I said, I was just doing some like on my car road what's it called, shots, and I was just thinking about stuff like you mentioned, we'll work on something that's important to you at the moment, and didn't have like the chances to go record other stuff, so I just kind of like put together like a road trip with myself thinking, and like stock footage I have of my son, and you know, movies that I like, so I can share it with you guys. It's pretty simple. I wanted to do it like with voiceover, kind of tell like what I'm thinking, but my microphone was picking up really bad stuff, the sound really badly, so I just kind of typed in like something very basic, just to kind of get an idea, a grasp of the idea that I wanted to pull off. So I can share it with you guys if you guys want.
Yeah, and I would suggest this to you guys also. YouTube is tied to Google right now. Google bought them, and so when you get a Google account, you can get a YouTube channel. I would say sign up for it, just so you have one, and then that's somewhere where you can upload you know, your projects, or take them down, make them private, make them public. It's free. So like Vimeo, if you get Vimeo, and they give you like you know, the free versions, you can upload like 500 megabytes a week, I think it is, or something like that, which is like 10 minutes or so. But YouTube's not, it's free. So I would say start with that, and just, if you want to share something, create a channel, upload it. I'll make that an assignment also, start a YouTube channel. And then you can build it over time. But just having it before someone takes the name, the website is the same thing. You want to register your domain with your name because it might not be available later. Somebody might snag it.
No, I can want to like share my screen so you can just watch it. Because I took some images from like 2 movie trailers and 2 music bands, but it's all mixed up with a lot of stuff. So
well, if you can share your screen, yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, okay,
can you do that? Or do you want to do it now or?
Yeah, I can do it right now.
Okay.
Give me a second. Okay, let me see. Do you guys see my screen?
I'm not seeing it.
Oh, hold on. Give me 1 second. Oh, because my, give me 1 second. Let's see if I can do it now. Oh, can you guys see it now?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay, let me go to. This is the one. It was just very basic, just kind of playing around. So, put a little bit of music. It's very low, actually, the music. Because I thought about the voiceover. That's. You can't hear the music, right?
Mm-mm.
No, it's very, very, very low. How was I gonna pick it up?
Okay, we can see it though.
That's for La Dolce Vita. Yeah, that's about it.
Oh, I really like it.
But the last part, it was some guys doing a shoot of like a shoot of a car shoot, whatever, on the street. Yeah.
Really nice, really cinematic, beautiful colors, beautiful dreamy quality. The subconscious, when you're talking about making film, the subconscious is a very important element that you can work with. And I think that having a sequence that's almost a dream sequence like that, it really creates an emotional space for the viewer to respond. It's really, really beautiful. And what kind of phone did you shoot it with?
It's a Samsung S8.
Really beautiful, really cinematic images. Wow.
Yeah, actually, I was shooting in 2K because the 4K was taking too much space. So it was 2K on 2.38, I think it was the ratio. And I left it in the auto white balance, so it was keeping it pretty nice and auto white balance. So I was kind of mostly, what I was mostly playing with, the white balance and the aspect ratios.
And did you lock your exposure? Your exposure, did you lock it?
No, I did not. I let it switch around while I was driving.
Okay, yeah, because when you're doing in different light settings like that, where you're shooting into a sunset and you're going from like the dark of the trees to the light, I mean, I think it looked beautiful, but if you lock it, then it won't flare and whatnot as much. But it looked fine, and I think for the content of what you did, that added a quality to it because it's so beautiful. Wow, did you guys all like that? Awesome. Well, good work. And as you, for your particular piece, because it occurred to me after we talked last week that it's going to be hard to film people in concerts because nobody's going out anymore. But it's a good time to have conversations with people, especially yourself, to have like, what is your thesis of your film? What is it you want to say? Like this piece had a definite thing that it wanted to say. And when you're making content, you always want to be aware of what you want to say with that piece. But with musicians, they probably have footage that they've shot themselves. So as you build relationships with musicians, ask them if they have footage so you don't have to go out and get it. You can just edit it in. Awesome. Elizabeth, you're next.
Okay. So right now I've just been trying to shoot like B-roll footage with Film Pro. Just because with us being shut down, most of the people that I had access to are now like working from home. They're kind of not going out. So being able to interview them might be difficult. So it's either, I'm still trying to figure out if I can still do that in terms of just asking them like what their first generation journey was with education, or if I should just pivot to just ask like at least the people around me that I can actually talk to, just what they're doing right now during this quarantine. Because it has been a change for quite a few of us to just, because at least the people that I know work with students, and now it's going from like us trying to figure out how to reach out to other people while being stuck to working from home. So.
Sounds good. I would recommend starting with the people around you because like the level of impact, what I'll call the level of impact, if you talk to the people that are being affected, if you talk to the students themselves, you're going to get one perspective that is kind of close to their experience. But if you talk to the people that are trying to serve them, you're talking about a system-wide conversation. Like what they're doing is going to affect so many other people that can then affect a larger population, that the issues that they'll be talking about are going to be really helpful to people in your position who are asking the same questions and don't have answers. So kind of like any answer is an answer right now. And that's where you find innovation, where no one knows what's going on and everyone's trying to create their own response. This is a really exciting time for that conversation. Awesome. So did you like what you've done so far, or just on a good track?
Yeah, I was just trying to do most of the B-roll, like either how the difference will be from people being outside versus what's like now, and slowly as we get more stricter. But a few of the stuff like it erased because I realized it wasn't saving. So I may have to go out and like reshoot it again.
Okay. But the good thing is it's free.
Yes.
And you'll get a chance to talk to your friends and your colleagues and stuff as you go as well. And I am a fan. Sandra and I disagree on a lot of production styles, but as an interviewer, I like re-interviewing people, even within the same interview, asking the same questions 3 different ways, because you're going to get 3 different answers. And sometimes there's a nuance that if they just ask it once, you're not going to get what you want from it. Whereas Sandra, she'll say, I've already asked that question. Why do I need to ask it again? I got the answer that they gave. And I said, yeah, but that's not the answer we need. The answer that, anyone can answer a million different ways. But if you've got a certain, like if your audience is like, how are we, like you said, how are we doing? How are educators responding? If someone says like, well, what are you doing to respond to? I don't know. That's not really helpful to you. And that's not really them the best that they can give. But then if you ask it again, well, what are you doing with Zoom? Oh, we're all over Zoom. We're doing this, you know. So knowing what you want as a finished statement, it guides the questions that you ask. So if you go back to people and interview them, it'll be interesting to see if their answers are different now, a week later, than what they were then. Sounds good. All right. So Alex.
Hey, okay, so I wasn't totally sure what I was going to do. I was considering doing a short piece that was fictional, but that's not a possibility now. It was something that happened to me a couple of years ago, so I just wanted to recreate this like small interaction. The basis of it was, at the time I was dating a half white, half Mexican guy who only looked white. And we were parked, and then these cops approached us and asked for us ID. We weren't driving or anything like that. So I wanted to recreate that scene because it became very heated. It was during a really tense racial time in San Diego. At the end of the day, they were being good guys. And so I wanted to recreate that, but I do not think I can do that right now. But I'm still really interested in the Mexican American identity. So I'm considering my nephew is half white, half Mexican, but he only looks white. And he is 2, and my sister and brother-in-law are teaching him Spanish as much as they're teaching him English, which is not an experience I had growing up. So I might document them if I am able to go visit them. I'm considering documenting how they're raising him in a very different time and compared to how we were raised.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that looks like yet, though. So.
Okay. Yeah, no, so it's a good time because there's so many questions about race and racism right now. And you know, being kind of in the middle, he may have a different perspective than his parents do. Because like you said, they had a different reality. Or you may find that his Mexicanness is more present now because he sees the racism that's out there. So it's an important conversation to have right now from his perspective as well as his parents, you know. So I think that's good.
I mean, he's 2, so he has no idea. Okay. he's only learning languages, but I'm very interested in how they're trying to implement it.
Right.
That me and my sisters and brother were raised to be more assimilated, while she is now like, no, we're teaching language, we're going to introduce these cultural things. But you know, he's only white passing. So to me, I'm very just interested in that because my family never had that liberty of being passing in any way, as physically at least, but have had to culturally. So I'm just curious by the juxtaposition. So I don't really know how I'm gonna frame that or like what's the activity I'm gonna film, but I think that's my starting point.
Well, if he's 2, you know it's gonna be cute. So I would go with that. But also, it's about the hopes and fears of the parents based on what they experience and what their conception of the future is. So again, this is where faces are very important. The emotions that they're communicating on their face is going to tell a story itself. Regardless of what they're saying verbally, you know, again, the subconscious, their face is not going to lie. It's going to reveal what they're actually feeling. So I would say that, you know, close-ups, even talking head interview kind of style is going to get you a lot of information. You know, you can do a lot of creative pans around their apartment or their house, close-ups of photos. Think how you would tell that story with images, knowing, of course, that you can't really go out and get them. You've kind of got to go in and get them.
Yeah.
And stuff that's important to you, that's around you, because then there's a conversation between what they're feeling and what you're feeling, and that can also be a really rich source of a really rich conversation. You know, because they may have a different opinion than you do.
Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds good. Well, yeah, I would say so. Suggestions, but let's see how you progress on that. And if you need any help from us, let us know. Okay, so is there anybody, because we've got a couple of guests that was in the class, that I missed so far who wants to give an update on their project? No? Good. Okay, so welcome, Arlette, and hope you're safe there in Irvine. I think Zulma has just joined us, so how you doing? Are you in LA or Hawaii?
I'm in LA.
Okay, awesome. Well, welcome. Thank you for joining us on the class. And so the assignments, there are 2 assignments. Get the Criterion channel, even if it's just for a month. If you want to, share it with somebody, or if there's, I think there's still a free trial. Check it out. Definitely worth your while. Fall in love with film, and also start a YouTube channel. So, and then also third one is become my Facebook friend so that I can set up a Facebook group for us so we can communicate better. And I've got a Mexican wrestling mask, the Lucha Libre mask that you saw in the videos on mine. That's how you know it's me, except no substitutes. But also, yeah, so like, yeah, have fun, do short pieces, just get to use the equipment. I'm glad you're all up to speed on nonlinear editors. And that brings us up to our time. So next week, definitely check in for Sean's presentation about Adobe Creative Cloud. And he will be giving away a 1-year subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud. And I want to thank our sponsors, our funders, Creative Center for Cultural Innovation, the Investing in Tomorrow grant, and also, which is part of the, I think the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, they fund that, and also the California Arts Council. So support the arts, support yourselves, get connected, make videos, and we'll see you next week.